Matthew Gates, for your crimes against the American people, I hereby sentence you to death. Captain Pelosi produces an old Makarov pistol from her belt, her cigar still firmly clenched between her teeth. The weapon discharges and Gates drops. She leans to inspect the wound and motions to have the body dragged off, then announces...
There was a gun in the vehicle. The police claim that he fired a shot out the window as he was running away in the vehicle, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They're also claiming they recovered a shell from the initial stop. You know, they're doing an investigation, so we'll see if they're lying or not. I anticipate they're probably lying. I don't know why he would fire a shot out the window at a bunch of cops as he's running away, a black man in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah, well, there's been a bunch of cop news. I don't know if there's more cop news or just because I talk about it and I guess, I read about it so much that it's just coming up in my algorithm a lot more. But I did realize on my birthday of all days.
Happy birthday. Happy belated.
Thank you. But yeah, on my birthday, there was an incident in eastern Kentucky. Some police
two cops
serving
killed?
Yeah. Police serving a domestic violence warrant. And initially it said 2 cops killed, then it said 3 cops killed, but it turned out one of the cops was a dog, service dog. But yeah, 2 cops killed. I think some others injured. Did you see the mugshot of the guy?
No, I didn't really look at it that closely.
Yeah, so he gave up. It was like a little hostage standoff for a little bit. He was inside the house. They had a negotiator come out, and he ended up surrendering himself. And somehow or another, after he surrendered himself, he must have started fighting back, I guess, because those cops beat the holy fuck out of that guy. Like, his whole face was just this bloody, scarred mess. You know, look.
Is this after he shot the police? The 2 cops?
This is, yeah, I think so. I think they shot him, or he shot them. They had a standoff. He come out, and then when he come out, they just beat the shit out. After he'd given up, they just beat the holy hell out of him.
Fucking scumbags, dude. They don't like it when the tables are turned around on them, do they?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Well, you know,
what the heck?
Being a police officer is like the 7th most dangerous job an American can have. So, you know, I understand where they're coming from. We need to beat the shit out of people in handcuffs. We need to shoot people in the back 60 fucking times.
Yeah. It's, oh my, that drives me crazy when
it was 8 officers.
People talk about.
So I guess it was 1 clip each they put into him. Unless they I don't know, maybe they reload, a couple of them reload. I don't know.
Okay. Oh yeah. So you're saying 60 rounds,
8 officers.
Yeah, that's about right.
15 in a clip, right?
No, it's like, well, it depends on what Glock you have. I think most of them carry Glock 17s, which is what I had, and that's a 18-round clip, 17-round clip. That's why it's a Glock. I don't know if that's why it's called a Glock 17, but 17 in the mag, and then 1 in the chamber. Yeah.
I saw this, but I thought he was like mulatto or something. I didn't realize they had fucked him up this bad.
Yeah, you look under his eyes, like both of his eyes are blacked. I'm assuming his nose is broke. It looks pretty messed up.
Oh yeah, it looks like they broke his freaking eyebrow bone too, orbital bone.
Yeah, they did a number on him. So this is what you get if you surrender, people. Just let it be known.
Yeah, he should have went out in a blaze of glory. Well, he survived, I guess. Of course, he'll probably get life.
Oh yeah,
that judge is not gonna.
Kentucky still have Kentucky doesn't have the death penalty, does it? No, they used to.
I wouldn't doubt it, dude. With this legislature, I wouldn't doubt it one bit. The Midwest has really gone hard right in the last decade, man. When I went to school up in Ohio, like my friends' parents were like Green Party members and shit. They were all like super lefties, but it's went really far the other direction, man. Like my dad's from that area too, and everybody, like my whole family, both sides are all like crazy right-wing Trump supporters, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how those things are happening in swing states. I was reading an article about Ron DeSantis. You know, Florida used to be, and I guess it still is to a certain degree, a swing state, but it seems to be swinging pretty hard in one direction, where it's just kind of become a petri dish for all the most hard-wing conservative ideas to try to, I don't know, see if they work, see if they can get them through. You know, it's become a tax haven. They're cutting corporate, environmental regulations left and right. Just odd, these are places where these things usually didn't happen, and they're starting to happen there quite a bit.
Well, the Democrats are so dog shit at appealing to like actual working class people. That's the problem. That's the main problem. that and gerrymandering. We'll get into it probably later. I think we have a segment that touches on this later. But first off, let me just say, I just finished episode 4, I think, or episode 5, I'm not sure, of Obi-Wan. I haven't finished it yet, but it was so awful. It was horrible. The entire episode was just a dumpster fire. What the hell are they doing to this beloved character? Darth Vader is in the show. How could they make it this? It was like they spent $12 on making this entire episode. It was horrible. Do you know which episode I'm talking about?
I've watched them all. Which one was it? Is it the one where? Don't tell me which one it was.
It's hard to remember even what happened because nothing really happened.
Because it's so fucking the one where, forgettable.
What's the black chick was like interrogating baby Leia, and simultaneously Obi-Wan is trying to save her. But
this is where he saves her from the planet where she's being held.
Right.
From the
whole plot
grand
line. The whole Leia plot line is garbage. Who wrote this trash? It's like The Flash. Did you watch The Flash of the CW show? It's equivalent to that as far as like effects and as far as writing and acting. It's like it's like the CW shows, like The Flash.
That's what killed me. I was watching it and there was like,
except it's not funny. The Flash is least funny.
Like the scenes with the ships in particular, and I'm looking at them like, this is such bad CGI. What is?
They're making. They want to make a profit off of this show. They're squeezing every ounce of American dollars out of the Star Wars franchise. It's disgusting.
Is that the new trend? Like it used to be. All right, we're going to make this as splashy as possible. So we'll just throw a bunch of money into effects so that it looks good. We'll save money on the writers because who cares about those anyways? And now they've got people to where they're going to show up for the intellectual property. It's Star Wars. They're going to show up anyway. So now we're going to start cutting back on the amount of money that we put into the visual effects, which is what was drawing the morons in here anyways.
Like everything looked like ass. Everything looked like ass. The hallways looked like ass. It didn't feel like Star Wars. Ewan McGregor was good, but everybody else was trash. Yeah. The only thing that looked kind of cool was the probe droid. It looked pretty decent. I don't know if that was practical effects mixed with CG, but it looked decent. Everything else was trash. Garbage. Horrible. The interrogation of Leia, like I did not feel she didn't feel threatened at all. Like there was never a moment like, oh shit, don't hurt Leia. Like, never did I feel that there was a threat there, a legitimate threat. It's awful.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's just too many storylines. Like it's like somebody wrote a story, and then you had 10 other people or executives come in, and they're like, all right, we need this to happen, and we need this to happen, and this to happen, and the writer's like, well, but we end up doing, instead of doing one whole story, we're going to do like 5 half stories, and it's not going to make any sense. And I don't know. They just throw it in because we have to make some toys to sell after this.
Exactly. And, I don't even want to finish it. Is the finale good?
It's cool. It's very cool. It's not good, but it's very cool. That's how I differentiate these things. Like there are cool movies and there are good movies. Yeah, I mean
it's garbage, dude. Boba Fett was awesome. Boba Fett was awesome compared to this trash.
You get some really good nostalgia tingles, like in the last episode. There's a couple really cool scenes with Vader. I mean, just the scenes.
You can do that and still make a good show.
You can. I don't know why they don't, and it drives me insane that they don't. But
would they spend like $1 trillion buying Star Wars, the IP? They have to recoup that Disney Corporation.
And they could. They could just put some good product, just put some good shit out there.
Like, buybacks, you got to stock buybacks. You got to make the investors happy.
With IPs like Star Wars, you have this huge base of people that are gonna show up and they're gonna watch it, and they love this franchise and they love the lore and they love all the characters.
Not anymore, bud.
And if you just gave them something good, just a legit good story, it would. I don't know. I still
stand behind Boba Fett. It's good. You should check it out, man.
Well, I'm sure it, but I'm just saying, like in general, they're really lacking in that. And I watch. I don't know. As I'm working through the day, I listen to some podcasts, like little clips where they do reviews of like Star Wars stuff, and these people are like, that's all their channel is Star Wars content, and kind of down to the last one, they're all just disappointed in Kenobi and a lot of the series that have been coming out.
See, that's your problem. You can't listen to reviews before you engage in the content, because that'll really throw you off.
It taints me. It does. It makes me. That's why I'm so cynical about everything. I don't even have to watch it. I'm just talking about how it's crap because I heard some guy on YouTube say it was crap.
All these libtards on the internet, all they do is complain about all this content to get fucking clicks, man. You can't listen to these assholes.
Well, it works with me. But I just tell you though, I did watch The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the Nicolas Cage thing.
There's a new Cage?
Yeah, there's a new Nicolas Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I haven't heard of this.
It's where Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage. He's the actor Nicolas Cage in the movie, and it's fantastic.
John Malkovich already did that.
Oh, this is really good. It's got Pedro Pascal in it. He's like this. He's like the guy that he meets up. He's a Nicolas Cage super fan. He's not really Pedro Pascal. He's not playing that character, but it was very good. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it.
It was so
different. It was so different, so just unique, well written, freaking hilarious. Nicolas Cage is he's just such a badass.
I know.
Had like all these callbacks to his old movies where he'll be like talking to somebody and then he'll just do a famous line from one of his movies and everybody's just kind of looking at him like, dude, you serious? You really doing Con Air right now?
I love Nick Cage.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched Pig yet, but it's on my list. It's high up on the list. All right. The European Union announced this month that they are mandating universal phone chargers. They are cracking the whip on these greedy corporations like Apple. Obviously, this is an assault on freedom, as you point out here correctly.
Obviously.
Yeah, this should be a bipartisan issue. This should have like 95% approval ratings across the board in every country. I don't understand. Yeah, this seems obvious to me. Well, yeah, they sort of did this. Android has sort of gone down this path for the most part, I think, here lately. They didn't used to. It used to be that every phone you bought had a different charger. Yeah,
it was pretty rough back in the early days where, if you didn't have the charger that come with your phone, you were kind of screwed in the early days of cell phones. But
yeah, there'd be a whole aisle at the dollar store with just different types of chargers.
Did they come to that was something that was kind of done holistically in the U.S. There wasn't any push or regulation or anything like that to get all the Android phones to kind of converge on the USB-A, I guess originally. Was there? I don't think so.
Well, there was two things that occurred simultaneously. One, consolidation. It was just a few companies sort of buying up the market as far as phone production. You had like 2 or 3 companies nowadays that basically make them. And 2, the supply. They're just so much cheaper to order by the metric ton from China. And I think the issue they had was they didn't have the stocking space in the stores to stock all these different fucking chargers. It would be my guess, but I don't know. I didn't read any stories about it at the time. So Apple responded to this with a letter to the EU Commission. Quote, Apple appreciates the opportunity to comment on the European Commission's proposal requiring manufacturers to implement a specific charging technology. Apple innovates to bring technologies to our consumers that enhance their lives. We're concerned that regulation mandating just one type of connector for all devices on the market will harm European consumers by slowing down the introduction of beneficial innovations in charging standards, including those related to safety and energy efficiency. It will also reduce European consumer choice by removing more affordable, older models from the market and increase e-waste by triggering disposal of existing cables and accessories. So corporate speak there. They're not happy because Apple's, they like to charge quadruple what everybody else does for their shit, and it won't fit.
Yeah. Oh, I guess. Well, no. I mean, because you can get off-brand. I don't know. I've never been an Apple person, so I'm really unfamiliar with how all that works. But I guess you can get aftermarket Apple chargers, right? I'm sure they're not as good as Apple brand, but
yeah, you can.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Like I was saying, I get this is legit. It's a legit argument, and I am sympathetic to it. As a company, if you're really concerned about innovating, and I'm sure that they all are to a degree. I mean, to a probably pretty high degree, they're concerned with innovating. You want to have that latitude to be able to switch up these chargers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how often. Well, I mean, I guess it's not very often at all that they're coming up with new hardware for the chargers. But if it come along, I guess you want to be able to make that move to do it. But I don't know. I mean, but that's not what Apple's concerned about in this scenario. They're worried about, like you were saying, having their own proprietary hardware, their proprietary hookups, monopolizing the market essentially on anything that works with their products. And yeah, I don't know. In a less profit-driven technology industry, I'd be fine with something like this. But being that these companies are just doing this to maintain kind of their monopoly on the hardware, it's I don't know. I'm just not buying it.
Well, you're being more charitable than I would be. I mean, they're basically, look, Apple is the Marvel of the electronics world, right? None of these companies innovate. They all just take shit DARPA researches and then just profit off of it. They don't fucking innovate anything, dude. What Apple does is they do what the Marvel movies do. They come out with new shit, and they want their new shit to be incompatible with their old shit. This is kind of what, game console developers do also. Apple is the most egregious in this area because they've been doing this for years. There was a story about 5 years ago that came out. I think some information was leaked, but what they do is they send out these updates to their iOS, their operating system, and it crashes older phones. And this has been going on since the beginning. They just release the same phone. They re-release every year or two, charge $500 for it. Well, it actually costs $2,000, but you're paying $500 up front for it with the contract. And then the operating system is not backwards compatible, and they crash old phones. And then the charger's not going to be backwards compatible because they come out with a new charger every 5 or 6 years. And this will put a stop to that at least.
Yeah, when it comes to that stuff, the re-releasing older phones with just a couple new bells and whistles, and I don't know, that's just scummy as can be. But like, realistic, how often are we changing charger ports? I mean, there's really 3, I guess. There's 2 new ones, and then the USB-A, at least in the US. I don't know. That doesn't seem too onerous. It's not that, it's fine. Like, I've got at least one charger of each kind here at the house. Is it going to help me to get rid of one of those? I mean, because you still, you've got the USB-A for your older shit. Like, I use that for, like, vapes and stuff like that. And then I got a USB-C for my phone. And then the only thing it would get rid of in my case would be I wouldn't have to have a different Apple charger around here for when these freaks come over here with their Apple devices and want to charge it at my house. Yeah, I don't know how this even affects anybody. This seems like, did Biden write this? This seems like a law that's being put into effect that will have absolutely zero effect.
I have a new proposal. We need universal tire sizes. There's no reason every car has to have a different fucking size of tires. It's such bullshit, dude. Why? What's the point? Do we need 80,000 different sizes of fucking tires? Can we not all just agree on a tire size and shape? It's ridiculous. Is that anti-freedom and authoritarian?
I think we could definitely cut down on it. We could cut probably 75% of the tire sizes down. We could have like the small, cheap, economical tire size, the mid-range tire size. Then you need like the extra wide tires for cars that can handle good, and then a couple different truck tires. Yeah, we certainly don't need like 50 different car tire sizes.
No, it's insane.
I'm down with that. But then again, like back when I was younger, you get like a new set of tires. Well, I never bought new tires until I was like in my 30s. But you get like a newer set of tires, and you'd get something that looked really cool that would go on your car, like some, what do you call it, the sidewalls, some really thin sidewalls, extra wide. And they're like, it's bulging out over your rim because your rim's not made for a tire that wide, but you don't care because you think it looks cool because you're 22.
What does looking cool have to do with freedom? See, the Soviet Union didn't deal with this shit. They had one fucking tire. They didn't have consumer choice, though, Tony. That's what really freedom is. The other big story I saw on Silence Daily, this is another study coming out. Vaccines reduce Alzheimer's risk. This is not the first of its kind, but this particular study says, quoting here from the Silence Daily article on this, the study, which comes 2 years after UT Health Houston researchers found a possible link between the flu vaccine and reduced risk of Alzheimer's, analyzed a much larger sample than previously researched, including almost 1 million flu-vaccinated patients and almost 1 million non-vaccinated patients in the study group. During 4-year follow-up appointments, about 5.1% of flu-vaccinated patients were found to have developed Alzheimer's disease. Meanwhile, 8.5% of non-vaccinated patients. This is a 40% reduction in risk of Alzheimer's among this particular study group. They're linking this to, so it's not like the flu vaccine itself is reducing Alzheimer's risk, but essentially what's happening is the immune response to the vaccine has having some beneficial effects, it would seem, on risk of Alzheimer's development.
Huh. Yeah, it is pretty interesting. So we could end up just seeing a divergence in the population. You were saying something about we end up having a divergence in the population where people with Alzheimer's, you're able to make certain assumptions about them, about their hesitancy to take vaccines, based on their higher likelihood to develop certain diseases. This used to be I guess it still is a thing. So back in the past, you're like the old image of the slack-jawed yokel that lived in the South, walking around barefoot, low IQ, that whole thing. So apparently that came from hookworm. Like hookworm can make your IQ significantly lower. And one of the ways you would get hookworm was by walking around barefoot. And so they think that the idea of the barefoot slack-jawed southerner come from them walking around barefoot, getting hookworm, and then it would decrease their IQ. So,
well, all the rural folk had hookworm, but then all the city folk had syphilis. So it kind of balanced out, I think, at the time, didn't it?
Oh, fair enough. Maybe.
I don't know if this will create a divergence, but it could. I don't know. It's just interesting research into potential treatments for Alzheimer's, because that's one of the things that scares me the most, man.
Race as a dividing issue for this country is gone. Class is out the window. Now it's just going to be flu vaccinated versus non-flu vaccinated.
I like the way you're thinking.
This is what the wars of the 22nd century will be about. So Marx got what he wanted. It will be a classless society based on wealth. It'll just be classes divided on whether or not you got your vaccine. Good job, buddy. Is this how you wanted it to go?
Well, past studies, quoting again here, past studies have found a decreased risk of dementia associated with prior exposure to various adulthood vaccinations, including those for tetanus, polio, and herpes, in addition to the flu vaccine and others. So again, this is a reaction to the vaccine, not necessarily the flu vaccine, but just vaccinations in general. And hopefully they can drill down on this one. I don't want to lose my mind. You might as well just kill me at that point. I don't want to be immobile. Like, I don't want to be stuck in a wheelchair or some shit. And I don't want to, like, lose my memories, dude. Those are the two things that scare me the most about getting old. Yeah,
it's terrifying. I just watched somebody go through this.
Which one?
Somebody I'd known, they had Alzheimer's. And somebody I'd known forever. You knew him, actually. Knew forever, and it was an older gentleman, and he got Alzheimer's, got to the point where he couldn't hardly recognize his own family, would get lost leaving his house and going a mile up the road, and it's terrifying. Like, I can't imagine a more terrifying way to go than to be there and just gone. Just, you're not there. Your body's still there. People are still having to deal with you, but your mind is just completely gone.
That's going to be me, dude. I know it is. Because Alney's lesions, dude. Remember Alney's lesions? These,
what is it?
Your brain develops holes with long-term exposure to dissociatives like DXM, for example. See, I'm going to have to donate my brain to science because I'm going to start losing my shit very soon, probably. We'll see, buddy.
Donate your brain to find a cure for, donate your body to science so that the researchers can find a cure for DXM brain.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be the new thing of our generation. All these kids, they grew up and they started losing their mind. They got that DXM brain, rotting holes in the brain.
That'd be fucked up, wouldn't it?
Look, there's those little pockets of Robitussin coming out of their fucking ears.
We start turning 50 and shit, and we all like turn into deranged cannibals with holes in our brain.
Yeah.
The January 6th hearings, quite a few bombshells. This was the most riveting testimony so far. Cassidy Hutchinson, the personal assistant to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, testified. They're on a break now, but they'll be back at an unspecified date after the holidays this July for some more testimony. We got some pretty juicy revelations here. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 revelations, 7 sort of bombshells that came out in her testimony. Did you watch this? I'm sure you did, right?
Oh, I've been listening to it religiously. It's been fascinating. Like, all the most, I guess, kind of wild conspiracy theories about what happened, like they all just seem to keep getting confirmed. You know, I was initially thinking like that. I don't know. I didn't think that this was planned. I thought that they let it happen. I thought that, January 6th was a protest that they were aware of that developed, but they weren't. I don't know. I didn't think that Trump or any of the Trump people thought that violence was going to happen on that day, and certainly not that they directly intended and convened and planned it so that there would be violence and pushed it along every step of the way so that it would be a violent overthrow of the U.S. government.
Is it a coup if he's the president, though?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because I mean, this has happened all sorts of times throughout history. I mean, this is what Caesar did, right? This is what Palpatine did.
That's history, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, kind of, close enough. Yeah. So Caesar, he was. Oh shit! What was the history of that? He got made. He was part of the triumvirate. He was one of the 3 consuls. Had power. A couple of the other consuls, unfortunately, happened to die from, unfortunate circumstances, and then the Senate was going to take power away from him, or he was going to lose power after his term, and he basically just led a coup against the Senate to have them instate him for life.
Didn't he like dissolve the Senate or some shit? Like got rid of it, something like that.
Essentially, yeah, like they were still around, but they had basically he forced them to give him all of the Senate power, and they just become like a ceremonial body, essentially at that point.
Yeah, this is what the U.S. does all over the world, but typically we do it on other governments, not our own. They vote the wrong way, and then we put it in whoever we want. But Trump was trying to do it in this country. Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, and the posse kept referring to what was known as the OTR movement. They had a name for this revolution. It was called Off the Record Movement. This is what they called their little group of conspirators, co-conspirators. Cassidy Hutchinson stated that she heard references made to the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys during planning meetings where Rudy Giuliani was present. So at the very least, they were aware of the threat of these white nationalist groups. I would say more likely, based on the other testimony and evidence, that they were collaborating with these guys, in my opinion. This makes it look a little more suspicious talking about the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys in the planning meetings. Why are there planning meetings for the peaceful transition? Come on.
Yeah, why do they have anything at all to do with a protest that's going to be planned? Just in general, I mean, you would think that the appearance of impropriety of having any association with a protest that's running counter to the peaceful transition of power would just be out of the question. But they don't seem to. Well, they're certainly not remotely worried about the appearance of impropriety.
I do. He met with Mr. Meadows in the evening of January 2nd, 2021.
And we understand that you walked Mr. Giuliani out of the White House that night, and he talked to you about January 6th. What do you remember him saying?
As Mr. Giuliani and I were walking to his vehicles that evening, he looked at me and said something to the effect of, "Cass, are you excited for the 6th? It's going to be a great day." I remember looking at him saying, "Rudy, could you explain what's happening on the 6th?" He had responded something to the effect of, "We're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great. The president's going to be there. He's going to look powerful. He's going to be with the members. He's going to be with the senators."
You know what she reminds me of in this testimony? Have you seen the, do you remember the guy, this bank robbery where they put a ring around this guy's neck and it was a bomb to blow his head off? The way she's acting in this testimony reminds me of how he was acting. Like, she's in on it, but like she has a knife at her throat or something almost. Like she's like somebody's gonna kill her if she doesn't say the right shit here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. She seems like a rat that's just jumped ship, and now she's pretending to be like everybody else on the ship just to distance herself from the sinking one. Like, because she's a true believer. She's a
really
hardline Trumper. That's my understanding. I mean, she was Mark Meadows' main staffer. She knew all these guys. She worked for Ted Cruz before she was with Mark Meadows. So she's like deep in that circle. I don't know. I don't know. I think she's young. She's smart. She sees the political aspirations from staying in that lane as probably nosediving and an opportunity to get on another team and get herself quite a good name in the process of doing it by testifying and being this kind of star witness. But it was amazing. Like, Giuliani is giddy talking about what's going to happen on January 6th.
It sounds like exactly how he talks. That's how he sounds.
When we were in the offstage announce area tent behind the stage, he was very concerned about the shot, meaning the photograph that we would get, because the rally space wasn't full. One of the reasons, which I've previously stated, was because he wanted it to be full and for people to not feel excluded because they'd come far to watch him at the rally. And he felt the mags were at fault for not letting everybody in. But another leading reason, and likely the primary reason, is because he wanted it full and he was angry that we weren't letting people through the mags with weapons, what the Secret Service deems as weapons and our weapons. But when we were in the offstage announce tent, I was part of a conversation. I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away.
So they're talking about metal detectors when they say when she's talking about mags here. Trump wanted the metal detectors removed from the Trump rally outside of the Washington Monument, I think was where the Trump rally was.
Yeah, and these, I guess, would also be the same groups of people that were going to end up marching to the Capitol afterwards. But yeah, I don't know. This is
very suspicious.
Very suspicious. Very suspicious. Of course, Trump, as usual, he's really concerned with the optics. I mean, that was, not only is he not worried about the people with weapons that are showing up, and there had been chatter from Capitol Police and Secret Service the whole day where they were spotting all these people with, walking around with, there's some references to Glock-style pistols, guys with AR-15s under their jacket, large, I keep hearing fireworks going off. I kept hearing this popping. What the hell is that?
That's probably my mic, yeah, outside of my...
No, it's like July 3rd, so I guess it's fireworks outside. Anyways, yeah, so there's all these people bringing weapons to the event. AR-style weapons, there was Glock-style weapons. This is per the recordings from the Capitol Police and Secret Service. There was spears. There were a lot of spear wielders there. Or I guess they were taking, they were flagpoles when they would have like sharpened ends. Which, that works. But yeah, I don't know.
Didn't he do that in Patriot?
True Patriots.
Oh, the movie, the Mel Gibson movie.
He did. Oh, he did, didn't he? Oh, and it was actually one of the recordings. It was pretty funny. It was I guess a Secret Service member, and he was saying, "Yeah, it's a guy with the cowboy boots near the 'Don't Tread on Me' flag," and then it showed like a photo of the area that he was talking about, and it was just nothing but cowboy boots and "Don't Tread on Me" flags.
Doesn't really narrow it down, buddy.
Gotta be a bit more specific. But yeah, and I was also kind of thinking about it, just kind of in the abstract, just. As a general rule, the president really shouldn't prioritize stoking his ego and like a good photo op over the smooth functioning of government. So obviously most of those people would have been Trump supporters, but just imagine putting yourself in a situation as president, especially that close to needing to hand over the reins of power, and you knowingly let somebody with a gun near you that could potentially shoot you or even try to pop off a shot at you. I mean, it's incredibly irresponsible. First off, like you have a responsibility to the people to keep yourself safe to a certain degree as a president.
Well, they're not there to shoot him. He knows that because he's been planning this shit for weeks. For one, for two, how dumb is this man? I mean, is there anything less important to your legacy than like how big the crowd was at some speech? Nobody will remember that in 2 weeks. Nobody even cares at the time. Only Trump cares.
That's the metric. That's the metric by which he judges his presidency, is how big his crowd size is for. No,
it's the biggest crowd ever.
He was talking about this in the footage where he's talking to the Georgia election officials. He brings that up. He's obviously we won. Obviously. This election was stolen. Just look at the crowd sizes. Look at my crowd sizes versus his crowd sizes.
Every interview.
He's throwing that out as this is how you can judge how effective I am and how loved I am because I have big crowds. And like maybe you're just a clown. I don't know. Maybe you're a cultist. That's what it is. He's a cult leader, and
he's not worried about his legacy because he thinks he's going to be the forever president after this.
You don't have to leave a legacy if you never go away.
It was a great day. So in this next clip, we hear testimony that Trump is not happy with his Secret Service. So in this particular clip, Tony, she refers to, is the assistant director of the Secret Service, and he served as Trump's deputy chief of staff as well. And the Beast in this clip they're referring to is the presidential limousine.
That is a cool name for the car.
The Beast. It's a good name for something else. We'll be giving the old wife later.
Be giving Mrs. Hutchinson if she ever gives me the time of day. Conservative women are hotter than liberal women.
They look like...
I looked at Tony and he had said, "Did you effing hear what happened in the Beast?" I said, "No, Tony, I just got back. What happened?" Tony proceeded to tell me that when the president got in the Beast, he was under the impression from Mr. Meadows that the off-the-record movement to the Capitol was still possible and likely to happen, but that Bobby had more information. So once the president had gotten into the vehicle with Bobby, he thought that they were going up to the Capitol, and when Bobby had relayed to him, we're not, we don't have the assets to do it, it's not secure, we're going back to the West Wing. The president had very strong, a very angry response to that. Tony described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
He's acting like a drunk, pissed off girlfriend.
I like the Secret Service guy is like talking to him like a child too.
"I wanted to go to the other bar with Laura," like grabbing the steering wheel, like, "Shut up, woman, leave me alone."
Sir, we're going back to the West Wing. How can he do that? Trump's the fucking president. He's gonna contradict. You should fire him. Surprised he didn't right there. You fired.
That's what I was kind of good. I don't know. I wonder if they have. I guess they do. They have to have some rule, like even if the president wants to go in harm's way, you can't take them there. Oh, that reminds me of. Did you ever read the Song of Ice and Fire books?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so the same thing comes up for I don't know, one of the Kingsguard, and they were talking with. This is an aside that I don't know why I'm getting into, but
pretty.
Joffrey, Joffrey wanted to do something, and Jaime Lannister is telling him, like, you're there to protect the king, and often you have to protect the king from himself. If the king asks you to help him shoe his horse, help him shoe his horse. If the king asks you to kill his horse, come to me and ask me first. But I don't know. That's like initially what I thought of when I heard this. Like he's freaking Joffrey, and he has to have a bunch of babysitters around him to make sure he doesn't hurt someone else or hurt himself.
I just can't see them doing this with like George Bush Sr., some CIA guy who's been a spook for 20 years. There's no way.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely. I remember this has been some years ago, but there were stories that had come out where Trump was upset because he felt like, I guess people were like kind of throttling him. They were making decisions for him, and they weren't really letting him do his own thing. That I guess it was known at the time that, like, basically this guy's a child. We're gonna have to run things for him, so we'll just set him in the driver's seat and do what he wants to do, and go out and give his speeches and his what do you call them, rallies that he loves to do so much. But just have to keep like a close eye on him and a tight leash on him to make sure he doesn't do anything too stupid. And for the most part, it seemed to work. He seemed to be fine being allowed to, go out and do the rallies and leave the governing to everyone else. But every once in a while, I guess he wanted to pretend to be real president.
I have a feeling he did very little actual administrative work. These corporate guys, all they do is come into the office and then like pick between two different options that their lackeys have prepared for him to choose between.
Yeah, could you imagine Trump like being up late at night worrying over the decision he's gonna make on any particular piece of legislation? He's like reading presidential memoirs, for other presidents that have made similar decisions, like what was their thought process? This is really going to impact a lot of people's lives, and I want to make sure that whatever decision I make, it's the best decision I know how to make, and it's made with the best of intentions. And he's reading like case law about similar things that had happened in the past. I don't know. You could not see him putting any thought into actual governance.
Definitely not. So this next clip, this is directly after Attorney General William Barr, the head of the DOJ, publicly stated in an interview that there was no widespread election fraud. They have investigated every claim. They have not found any evidence. And this is Trump's reaction to that announcement by William Barr.
How did the president react to hearing that news?
I first noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall, and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor. The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall.
The ketchup dripping down the wall. He threw his plate against the wall because William Barr refused to lie and say that there was election fraud when there actually wasn't.
Could you imagine, James, a grown man throwing dishes with food on them against the wall because just for any reason whatsoever?
Not any grown man that actually has to clean up his own mess. No, of course not.
Yeah, well, that right there just speaks to the level of entitlement. Anybody that's ever had to clean up their own mess would not do something like that. Like, that just speaks to the fact that he's had people waiting on him hand and foot his entire life. He's never had to do
something like that one time when you're like 12, and then you're like, oh, then you have to clean it up, and then it never happened again.
Yeah. He probably like wipes his ass and like throws the toilet paper on the floor.
He doesn't wipe his own ass, dude. We know he wears a diaper. Somebody else does it.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, I mean, I've heard this been described as Nuggygate. He got upset and he threw his chicken nuggies against the wall because things weren't going his way.
No way, dude. Trump is not a nuggy guy. He is not a nuggy guy.
He's definitely a nuggy guy.
No.
He's a freaking child. Children love nuggies. What is it? What was he eating then?
Nugs are too high in protein. He's cheeseburger and french fries from McDonald's. We know he's a McDonald's guy because he served remember when he served the football team, came to the White House and he served them cheeseburgers and cold fries?
I do remember that, yes. he had his photo up.
Or a steak, like a well-done steak and with ketchup.
No grown man, I don't know how you feel about this, no grown man should ever eat ketchup. That's something that it's for women, it's for uneducated hillbillies,
Careful.
and it's for children.
Careful.
I'm standing by this one. I'll take this to my grave.
You're going to alienate 90% of our audience.
You should be. You all need to get yourself together. Get a life.
And your co-host. I love the ketchup. Heinz has
rethink what you're doing.
Sugar-free ketchup now. Very good.
This is the lack of culture that really is at the heart of the rot of American culture. Just this lack of refinement where people want to eat food with tomato syrup.
If Trump eats nuggets, I guarantee you he does not eat nuggets with ketchup. He eats nuggets with barbecue sauce because he's an American.
Yeah. I did actually get upset though, because I was thinking, so like she goes on to say that this was not the first time that they had found dishes broke around the White House from Trump throwing his temper tantrums. And I actually got really upset because I was like, I'm paying for those freaking dishes. And we got this man-child just screaming and throwing them around and having a fit because people aren't going along with his story that he's made up in his head. And like, I would not have that visceral reaction towards hearing about some big bullshit giveaway to some defense company. Lockheed Martin gets some $1 billion contract because Jared Kushner sucked somebody's dick or whatever. But the dishes thing, like, it hit me personally. There was something about it, it really rubbed me the wrong way. Just that, I don't know what you'd even call it.
Well, see, you're thinking about this the wrong way. See, we're saving tax dollars with Trump in there because Trump is eating fucking nuggies and McDonald's cheeseburgers instead of filet mignons and shit that, Obama was in there eating foie gras, fucking saffron encrusted sea bass and shit.
No, see, I'm upset about that too. So, as somebody that has worked in a kitchen, went to school for this, and you have a trained chef on staff. That man's getting paid whether you're there or not, regardless of what you want. You got that, and you're eating shit with ketchup. You can, eat some good stuff. That drives me insane. This is like me arguing with my daughter. I'm like, honey, I'll make you some good food. We'll have some nice, good, tasty, healthy food, but you want to eat freaking fish sticks.
Fish sticks are delicious, dude. What is wrong with you? So they closed this particular testimony from Ms. Hutchinson with this nuggie of goodness. It was pretty epic. I love the way they're slowly rolling this out.
And just, by the way, the narrative value of these, where they've set the tone of each hearing, and they kind of set everything up, and they're the way that they're crafting a story about what happened is just par excellence. I wish Star Wars would hire this guy so that he could write their stories, because it's just been riveting.
Slowly building and slowly building.
Setting all the groundwork with the big reveal every once in a while, and you're like, oh my gosh, he threw his nuggies.
Probably be like a Stephen King film, and the ending will be a complete dud.
First, here's how one witness described phone calls from people interested in that witness's testimony. Quote, "What they said to me is as long as I continue to be a team player, they know I'm on the right team. I'm doing the right thing. I'm protecting who I need to protect. You know I'll continue to stay in good graces in Trump world. And they have reminded me a couple of times that Trump does read transcripts, and just keep that in mind as I proceed through my interviews with the committee."
So this is the first one. They read one more in a second here. This is pretty clear to me that this is referring to, what's her name? Hutchinson, Cassidy Hutchinson. Clearly it's a reference, like this is what she is telling the hearing, I think. Who else could it be? It couldn't really be anybody else. Sounds like her.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's somebody that hadn't, we haven't heard their testimony
Could
yet.
be, yeah.
This is a call received by one of our witnesses. Quote, "A person let me know you have your deposition tomorrow. He wants me to let you know he's thinking about you. He knows you're loyal and you're going to do the right thing when you go in for your deposition."
Who's making the phone call, you think?
That sounds like Trump's words. He knows you're
No.
loyal and you're going to do the right thing. No. Back in the 80s, Trump, before he made it like really big, he had a fake assistant that he would answer the phone as for himself. You can find
No
this
way,
a story. The actual, hang on.
And by voice? They would recognize his voice in 2 seconds, bro.
He doesn't care, or he does. No, he thinks he's so clever.
Right, he thinks he's slick.
John Barron. So John Barron was his fake assistant that he would answer the phone. Yes, I would let Mr. Trump know.
No, this isn't Trump. This is John Barron.
This is John Barron. And of course, he ended up naming his son Barron, right? But yeah, he called up. My name's not Trump, and I want you to be very loyal. Very loyal. There's certain people who want you to be loyal. You keep your good graces in Trump world.
This phone call. Well, they have the transcript. So it sounds like Rudy Giuliani, doesn't it? A little bit. I don't know.
It could be.
Maybe it's too eloquent. He wouldn't directly be involved in witness tampering, though. It's got to be somebody.
I don't know, man. And by the way, there's no stretch of the imagination where this is not witness tampering.
Yeah, this is clearly a federal crime here.
I have had conversations with lawyers about witness tampering myself, and they will stress to you how incredibly easy it is to misconstrue even the smallest little thing as witness tampering. So you have to tread very carefully in any instance like this. And I mean, that right there, like that's it being as obvious as that is, like if a prosecutor wanted to go after somebody for witness tampering, I mean, it seems like a slam dunk. Certainly if it were anybody else, they would have no qualms whatsoever about, throwing the book at them.
If it was Trump doing it, it'd be witness tampering. Because like if you're going to trial, you can't even contact a witness to that trial that you're involved in, because that's witness tampering. But this is somebody else witness tampering on Trump's behalf. They have to prove that Trump ordered it or knew about it. That's the problem with all this shit. You have to prove that Trump knew about it.
Yeah. Unless you were also, if it were Rudy Giuliani, somebody that were potentially involved in this or named in any indictments, then even if they were doing it on behalf of Trump, it would still be maybe in their case. I don't know how that goes, but even if it weren't on behalf of Trump, even though they would be involved in the hearings or the case, maybe they could still be charged with witness tampering.
Yeah, they could, but Trump will never be charged with anything.
But I don't know, man. Like this is old mob shit, and there's a lot of mobsters went down for witness tampering back in the day. This is the same shit that they would pull. You're not going to have. Yeah, I mean, this is like typical John Gotti shit.
Trump's a real estate guy from New York. Of course, he
knows mob tactics. Yeah,
has dealt with these guys. I'm sure. Probably hired them before. But the problem is he's a president. You can't be convicted of shit when you're president. That would open the door to convicting every fucking crooked ass U.S. tyrant warmongering president in history. They're all crooked as fuck. They can't set the precedent, man.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really the big thing is the optics of it. Like would be absolutely terrible. Like within the U.S., certainly Republicans in the U.S. are just going to be appalled at the idea of the Biden Justice Department pursuing charges against Trump. But even like on the international stage, like how just weird would it look if the U.S. their own Justice Department is bringing charges against a former president?
I have to disagree with you here. I think it's shameful. The world looks at us with great shame that we haven't arrested this guy. We didn't arrest him immediately. We should have arrested him immediately, then and there. Should have been Pence.
We should have.
Pence should have been the president, and Trump should be in the fucking prison right now.
Yeah, should be. I don't know. It would just be fascinating to see how things played out if they actually do ever bring some charges against him.
Yeah. I mean,
because it's unprecedented, right? Like nothing like that's ever happened.
The business plot, but I mean, that wasn't a president really behind it. That was the business community.
And I mean, Trump would just use it as fuel for his next presidential run too. I mean, that would be if I don't know, when is it, November that they end these hearings? So I guess these hearings run, let's say, right to the opening salvos of the next presidential, where candidates start announcing their presidency. And he's just been getting all that extra media play. His name is on the top of everybody's, at the tip of everybody's tongue.
That'd be fascinating.
It could potentially help him.
Say the Justice Department does announce an investigation. They'd have to announce an investigation first, wouldn't they? They announce the investigation. Yeah, November 2024. They'd have to get it done by then, obviously, because he'd have to. If he was running on elect me or the Democrats are going to put me in jail. I mean, that's a pretty strong campaign message. I don't think it would take that long. It wouldn't take two fucking years.
If they did something, like they would have to be damn sure that they had a slam dunk case and that he was going to have to face real consequences. Because you imagine if he got out, if they brought charges against him and he were able to weasel his way out again. That's just more fuel to the fire, really.
I mean, this is pretty damn fucking slam dunk already, dude. I don't know what else they would.
For any normal person, yes. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason with him, not. Forgive and forget.
Here's what happens. They bring charges against Rudy Giuliani. They put the squeeze on him, squeeze the fucking hair oil out of him until he squeals on Trump. He's got some kind of tapes. So somebody has something put away as collateral to leverage over Trump. Somebody does.
Oh, for sure.
Probably Mark Meadows. Have you seen House of Cards?
I didn't watch like the last couple seasons, but I watched the first few seasons.
Yeah, Mark Meadows, like the president's chief of staff, really is running shit in the White House. He's got some dirt on Trump put away somewhere. Guarantee you, dude.
I don't see Trump as being a very careful man, so I imagine there's all sorts of dirt lying around on him. Yeah, I just don't see him being. Yeah.
If anybody does it, it's going to be Meadows, because Meadows is implicated in all this shit too. Meadows was part of the OT, he's part of all this shit. He was in the meetings. He's already had testimony against him by Hutchinson and other people here. I bet you Mark Meadows or Giuliani. Yeah,
I mean, his chief staffers out here tattling on him right now. Miss Hutchinson. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be really amazing to see something actually happen.
This clip is on that subject. Can Jan 6 make a criminal referral?
The Justice Department doesn't have to wait for the committee to make a criminal referral. And there could be more than one criminal referral.
Are you worried about what that means for the country to see a former president prosecuted?
This is Liz Cheney here for the audio listeners.
Who may in fact be running for president against Biden. It would be Biden's Justice Department. It would be prosecuting.
I have greater concern about what it would mean if people weren't held accountable for what's happening.
Yeah, they can make a referral, but it's up to the Justice Department whether or not they prosecute. It's not up, it's not up to Congress.
The committee won't be, I guess they don't have the ability to prosecute anybody. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm sure that there'll be prosecutions going on. Somebody's going to be getting investigated. There's going to be charges brought against somebody. But I would really love to see it happen to Trump. I really want to see him screaming and crying as he gets dragged off to jail. Imagine him after like 6 months where he hadn't had any spray tan. His hair is just flat and falling out, and it's just completely this like white wisps just floating around everywhere.
He would die in 48 hours. They put him because he'd be in solitary. He'd be like a high profile prisoner. He would die in 48 hours, dude.
You think so?
Oh yeah, dude. Look at his body. He would never make it.
I don't know. What I would really love to see, like we have some old-fashioned post-revolution communist show trials. So you just think about it, like you're just sitting here, all of a sudden watching TV, and then you just hear like a beep. You see the seal of the office of the president. It comes out. There's this empty podium covered with microphones. After a few minutes, this man in olive drab fatigues just ponderously steps up to the speaker's platform. The man about to speak is Biden. He begins his salutation with just a list of names. The list goes on for a long time. He then pauses and with a furious certainty elaborates the need for unity of country and warns us of the peril we face when outside forces try to rip our nation asunder. And you cut to the interior of Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts. The disembodied voice of Biden that we still hear speaking mentions that this is the stadium of the Patriots. We see the floor of this hallowed monument to American culture packed with people in various states of dress and disarray. They're surrounded by a corduroy of armed guards. We then hear the stern yet gleeful voice of Biden introduce the director of security. A slight figure, dressed in fatigue similar to Biden's, begins a determined path toward the assembled men held under guard. We see through the grainy footage the occasional cloud of thick smoke rise past the black beret head from a thick cigar held firmly in the woman's teeth. The timbre of Biden's austere voice rises. Captain Pelosi, please execute judgment. The militaristically clad Pelosi begins to read, Matthew Gates, for your crimes against the American people, I hereby sentence you to death. Captain Pelosi produces an old Makarov pistol from her belt, her cigar still firmly clenched between her teeth. The weapon discharges and Gates drops. She leans to inspect the wound and motions to have the body dragged off, then announces another name, Rudolph William Giuliani. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
That sounds plausible if it was the other way around. If it was after the coup and Trump had been successful, that sounds plausible.
Listen, if Fidel and Che were able to pull it off, I don't know why Biden and Pelosi can't. That's all I'm saying.
Because they're all part of the same class. They're not going to turn on each other. They're going to prosecute the workers, man. The people who actually did the dirty work.
Yeah, most likely.
Anyway, it'll be entertaining to watch. I'm here for it. So last week we had a bevy of Supreme Court decisions come down finally, which is pretty terrifying. We have basically a handful of ultra-wealthy Yale and Harvard grads basically running the country, deciding everything for us. Pretty dystopian.
Yeah, unelected and completely unaccountable.
Correct. And serving lifetime appointments.
Yeah.
With no recall or democratic input whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Don't even protest outside their house.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to be uncouth.
Yeah.
I hate when people are uncouth.
These are special people. They're not like you. You don't bother them, okay?
They're just doing their job, so leave them alone.
These are direct quotes from the New York Times, the paper of record here. This is on the Roe decision. The Supreme Court on Friday overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating the constitutional right to abortion after 50 years in a decision that will transform American life, reshape the nation's politics, and lead to all but total bans on the procedure in about half the states. Quoting from Justice Samuel Alito Jr., Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. One of the most momentous from the court in decades, bans in at least 8 states swiftly took effect after they enacted laws meant to be enforced immediately after Roe fell. These are the trigger laws. More states are expected to follow in the coming days, reflecting the main holding in the decision that states are free to end the practice if they choose to do so. And Kentucky was one of those states with trigger laws. Although there is an injunction currently that won't last long, and abortion will be completely banned here, as well as Ohio, other places, all across the country. So, in fact, the law in Kentucky, the trigger law, was passed by the state house, and Bashir vetoed it, and they overrode his veto because they have such a supermajority in the House. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Democracy.
So, ladies, check out showerhempfarms.com for abortion pills and coat hangers. On sale now.
This reminds me when I tried to talk my sister into eating a bunch of nutmeg when she got pregnant the first time. She was like 16. I was like, just eat a bunch of nutmeg. You don't need a baby. You're 16. She didn't listen, though.
Plus, nutmeg is cool.
Love you, Haley. Pretty scary for my daughter. Thinking about my daughter when she grows up in this environment. You need to tell her, like, now listen, you're not allowed to have sex because sex is illegal for girls. Essentially, is what this boils down to. Wait till you're married like God intends.
Yeah, and for all you boys out there, don't have sex unless you're willing to pay child support for the next 18 years. Oh, you'll go to jail too, so sex is illegal for boys too. There's a lot of people in jail for child support.
Yeah, true facts. The second decision that came down, New York gun laws were struck down. Again, quoting here from the Times, the Supreme Court ruled on Thursday that Americans have a broad right to arm themselves in public, striking down a New York law that placed strict limits on carrying guns outside the home and setting off a scramble in other states that have similar restrictions. States' rights and all, right? Yeah, not so much. New York had this law that you couldn't carry around a concealed weapon, and you had to get a special permit. You had to have some good reason why. The Supreme Court said, that's unconstitutional.
Yeah, so this was like their old concealed carry or permitting law. This is, I guess, it's been around for a long time. I've heard people talk about going through the New York concealed carry permitting process. I guess, yeah, that was the issue. It wasn't open for everybody. You had to have a reason. I think it was one of those. My understanding was the reason it was like for like getting medical marijuana. Like it could be any reason. You just had to make up some reason.
It was still an extra step in the process, and it was one of the strictest laws in the country as far as gun control.
Huh. Okay.
The Supreme Court decided that was unconstitutional because states' rights only supersede federal rights when it's something that they agree with. So next up, West Virginia versus the EPA. Another ruling came down on Thursday. Quoting again here. The Supreme Court on Thursday limited the Environmental Protection Agency's ability to regulate carbon emissions from power plants, making it much tougher for President Biden to achieve his goal of cutting greenhouse gas emissions in half by the end of the decade. It has also expressed skepticism toward the reach of other regulatory agencies. Evident in recent decisions arising from the coronavirus pandemic, the court has ruled, for instance, that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention was not authorized to impose a moratorium on evictions, and that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration was powerless to tell large employers to have their workers vaccinated or undergo frequent testing. So, yeah, sort of a complicated case here, as I point out, dealing with the major questions doctrine. But it goes basically like this. Congress passes a law, like the Clean Air Act, for example, and when they do this, they leave the law fairly vague. They give discretion to the executive branch, professional agencies, like the EPA, the FDA, to carry out the laws based on their expertise in the field. And that's what was this particular case, West Virginia versus the EPA. West Virginia sued the EPA because the EPA was trying to tell the power plants they needed to cut their emissions, and the power plants via West Virginia decided to sue to block the EPA's ability to regulate them. So that's essentially what all this boils down to, is the Supreme Court saying that the federal government is no longer able to regulate companies unless Congress specifically passes a regulatory law about very specific things, specific chemicals, things like that. They can't make these broad laws and then have the EPA or these agencies carry out based on expertise. The Congress needs to have expertise, essentially, which they don't. They're congressional members. They're representatives. They're not fucking scientists like the CDC has, for example.
Yeah, so it's essentially, it's not like this isn't going to make it to where Congress is going to end up going back and rejiggering the existing legislation so that it's more specific and it fits with what the Supreme Court is wanting. Like, it's essentially just making it to where it's just not going to happen anymore. There's not going to be any new legislation being passed on like the Clean Air Act, because the new rules on any legislation constitutional are so onerous that, you know, Congress, it's already almost impossible for them to get any legislation passed. You know, if it's something this onerous, they're just not going to pass it at all. So they're essentially just getting rid of anything altogether.
It's that, and it's also the fact that Congress is less democratic than the executive branch, and it's not staffed by experts in the field. It's staffed by fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene and shit.
Yeah.
It basically guts the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, all these regulations. It fucking guts the entire power of the executive branch to do anything, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the best case
very
scenario.
Very fucking scary, dude.
Best case scenario, Congress is packed with like science illiterate people, and all too often they're just straight up science deniers that are in there.
I mean, the scariest thing is the NLRB. What they're going to do to the NLRB in the coming fucking decades. The Republicans are putting, how old is Amy Coney Barrett? She's like, is she in her early 40s maybe at the oldest?
Yeah, something like that.
Lifetime appointments, dude. Jesus Christ. Well, maybe the environment will become so fucked and the air they're breathing will just poison them and kill them.
It'd be nice.
Silver linings.
Silver.
We all die. They fucking
go.
die too. Yeah. Yeah. The rich will be the last to die, but yeah. So I just wanted to point out here, the Supreme Court has made it clear with these decisions that these agencies attempting to interfere with corporate profits, which is what that when they struck down Biden's moratorium on evictions, that's what they were doing. They struck down his attempted regulation of businesses to enforce the coronavirus vaccine, basically force safety in the workplace. They block that, and then they block this decision. These decisions could all be interpreted as to appear as if they are intended to stop the ability of the executive branch to limit corporate profits in any way. Because anything that interfered with corporate profits, they immediately blocked. And it's been pretty straight and narrow line from that reading of it. That's my reading of it anyway.
Yeah.
Next up here, fourth, Kennedy versus Bremerton and Carson versus Mackin. These are the two separation of church and state cases that were brought. These two rulings signal that separation of church and state is going bye-bye because the Constitution, these guys are constitutionalists and all, Founding fathers. Yeah. Oh, wait.
The Founding Fathers were often not Christians. Yeah, secular.
Way more secular back then than it is now, man.
Way more.
Fucking Iran is more secular than the United States at this point. Literally. And that's a true fact. So Kennedy versus Bremerton. This is the coach who was fired for praying on the field after games. In her dissent, Justice Sotomayor said Mr. Kennedy effectively coerced students into praying with him. Quote, students look up to their teachers and coaches as role models and seek their approval, she wrote. Students also depend on this approval for tangible benefits. Players recognize that gaining the coach's approval may pay dividends, small and large, from extra playing time to a stronger letter of recommendation to additional support in college athletic recruiting. Similar cases were brought as recently as 2000 rejecting prayer in school, and this case essentially overturns what's known as the Lemon Test. This was a requirement for courts to consider whether the challenged government practice. So if somebody brought a case that challenged the separation, the test was to ask whether the primary effect is to advance or inhibit religion, and whether it fosters excessive government entanglement with religion. So they basically overturned this. They said, fuck that. We don't care. Do what you're going to do. Oh, this is the coach. That's right.
Yeah.
Coach Kennedy here. He was fired for praying on the field after games, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. And he brought the case.
But the Supreme Court, along ideological lines, so the 6 conservative justices on one side, the 3 liberal justices on the other, ruled in favor of Kennedy, who told our Drew Mickelson about why he thought he was improperly fired.
Simply because it was a private prayer between God and myself. And I don't think anybody in America should have to worry about their faith and their job.
Private prayer between God and himself.
That's what it looks like.
Why are you doing it on the middle of the fucking football field? Why are you coercing
Yeah. So I went both ways on this. Initially when I read the court's opinion, and having read the court's opinion, like their logic seemed pretty sound initially. I was like, this makes sense. The argument that they're making on why he shouldn't have been fired. I got a few things. So initially the court finds that the sole reason for the firing was just its perceived risk of constitutional liability. So this is what the school district that fired him, they listed as the reason for firing that, They perceived what he was doing as potentially violating the separation of church and state, and that it would be an official endorsement of religion. Now,
that's how it's always been interpreted prior.
Yes, but now when I was reading that, I hadn't seen any of these photos. First off, and I hadn't read any of the facts of the actual case. In the judgment, the contested exercise does not involve leading prayers with the team. Now, look at the photos and see if that. If that statement actually makes any sense, was fired only for his decision to pray quietly without his students after 3 games in 2015. Now, it was not just 3 games in 2015. He'd been doing this for years. It had been brought up several times to him. I think it was just the last 3 games when they officially told him again, like, you need to stop doing this, and he just didn't do it. yeah, they were saying that, the district was seeking to restrict his actions for the religious character. District explained it could not allow an on-duty employee to engage in religious conduct, even though it allowed other on-duty employees to engage in personal secular conduct. And essentially they made this argument that, like, this was just a small private prayer that this guy was making after the games, and these angry secularists were just so scared that any perceived religiosity on school grounds would be a violation, that they fired him for it. And of course, that's not what was happening. It wasn't just a small private prayer between himself and God, like he says, and like the court judgment says. This was an ongoing, massive event that was taking place, a disruptive event that was taking place on the 50-yard line, like right in the middle of the field, directly after the game.
Prayer in school is not allowed. It never has been. Or at least
Well,
not
you
since-
can pray in school as a private, personal thing. You can walk.
But
You can do it between, like, if you're a teacher, because obviously, like, students can pray in school if they want to. Nobody's stopping them from doing that. But as a teacher, you can pray in school. You can sit down at your lunch and pray over your food. You can during your break between classes, you can go in the bathroom or go in the teacher's lobby and sit down and pray. And no one cares about that, because you're not doing anything as your official function, and there's no perceived coercion of the students if you're doing something like that, where the students may feel like they need to be involved in the prayer for whatever reason. And that's how the court opinion originally made it. Like I said, it made it sound to me that he was just taking a moment after the after the game was over to say a little prayer to himself, and then he went over with the team and finished conducting his business as the coach, wrapping up the game or whatever. But yeah, like I say, that's not what was happening. The dissenting opinion, this was by Sotomayor, Breyer, and Kagan, that Kennedy had a long-standing record of conducting demonstrative prayers at the 50-yard line. So it wasn't just those 3 times. Kennedy consistently invited students to prayer at the same time and location. The court ignored the severe disruption to the school events that was taking place during Kennedy's conduct. Obviously, the county was home to Baha'is. I've never heard of that before. Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, Muslims, Sikhs, Zoroastrians, as well as different Christian denominations and religiously non-affiliated.
Heathens,
and then
pagans,
those evil pagans. And not just that, but his duties specifically required him to supervise student activities. This is part of his job description. Supervise student activities immediately following the completion of the games. Obviously, if he goes out to do his little voodoo, he's not really fulfilling his duties of his job. The district also sets requirements for interactions to exhibit sportsmanlike conduct, blah, blah, blah. The important one down here is school's policy on religious-related activities and practices provided that school staff shall neither encourage or discourage a student from engaging in non-disruptive oral or silent prayer or any other form of devotional activity. Religious services, programs, or assemblies shall not be conducted in school facilities during school hours or in connection with any school's sponsored or school-related activity. So, plain as can be, this is straight from the Code of Ethics for the district, the school district that the guy worked at. You're not supposed to encourage or discourage a student from engaging in any sort of prayer, whether it be oral, silent, whatever. And if what he was doing wasn't a direct engagement in encouragement for prayer, it was certainly doing that. So,
well, it's coercive, because the kids who aren't going to pray with him are going to get fucking benched. You know what I mean? You can tell just by looking at him, this guy's psycho. He's got that crazy fucking religious nut look in his eye.
Yeah.
How do other people not see this? Like, do they not notice the fucking craziness going on?
You have to go out in front of everybody at the 50-yard line directly after the game. And he has to do it right there, right in front of everybody. You have to make the biggest scene imaginable. It's not something that you could just do. Hey, that's what I was saying. You can pray as a teacher at school while you're on the job. Just make it quick and be private about it. If you want to stop for 15 seconds after the game and put your head down, no one would have said anything about it. That's perfectly fine. it was obviously coercive, and it was obviously a function of the school-funded game that this prayer was going to take place. And that's what the issue was.
See, they brought a Christian. If this was like a Church of Satan guy, there's no way the Supreme Court would have sided with him.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely.
I do have some footage of him. Let's take a look at here of him praying.
I really like how he's rolling those R's. But James, I want to give you a little bit of religious.
The joke didn't work that good because the damn internet was fucking up on me.
Initially, when I heard this, I couldn't remember exactly the wording of it, but there was a certain passage from the New Testament that come to mind. There's some crazy shit. Now, I'm sure that this guy disagrees with it, because I don't know who this guy, Jesus, that wrote this, that said these words in this Bible, but
allegedly,
maybe this coach could teach him a few things. But anyway, this is Matthew 6:1. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. Anyways, he goes on. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who is in secret will reward you.
Right.
But Christianity, it's the whole idea behind it was this is something you do in private. The people that do it in public are doing it for attention, and they're doing it not for a personal relationship with God, but to be seen by other people. And this was his virtue signaling. Jesus was anti-virtue signaling. Jesus might have been anti-woke too. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, so one of the criteria, incidentally, for this whole thing I was reading through was that it had to be a sincerely held religious belief. Like, I guess you can't make up a religion and then say, you're violating my made-up religion. But yeah, so for the criteria that the Supreme Court were applying, they said it had to be a sincerely held religious belief. And that's what I thought of. Like, well, is it a sincerely held religious belief if it's contrary to the religion that you're saying that you're practicing? I guess that doesn't matter.
I don't think any of these guys really believe this shit. Not the I don't think any educated person believes in fucking Sky God. I don't buy it, dude. I know I'm probably just cynical here. I just don't fucking buy it. In 2022, you got women peeling fucking cucumbers with their teeth on TikTok, and you expect me to believe that people still believe in fucking Sky God? Really? Come on. I don't buy it, dude. I think it's all fucking, it's for one, it's the FLDS shit. I don't know if you saw there's a new FLDS documentary on Netflix talking about the fundamentalist Mormons. Yeah, it's all, they want to go back to that shit. They want to go back to breeding women like fucking horses and marry them in at 12. That's what it's all about, dude. I don't think any of them actually believe this nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know. There's certainly some fascinating psychology behind
it makes for
American
good horror.
Conservative religiosity.
Makes for good horror films. The other one was Carson versus Mackin, the other separation legislation that was struck down. Supreme Court ruled on Tuesday that Maine may not exclude religious schools from state tuition programs, the latest decision by a conservative majority that has increasingly favored the role of religion in public life. The case on Tuesday grew out of a lawsuit filed by families in Maine who wanted to send their children to two religious schools and were challenging an unusual program that requires rural communities without public secondary schools to arrange for students' education in one of two ways. Local school districts can sign contracts with nearby public schools, or they can pay tuition at a private school chosen by parents, so long as it is not religious. The decision on Tuesday would force districts to pay tuition at religious schools as well. One of the schools at issue in the case, Temple Academy in Waterville, Maine, says it expects its teachers to integrate biblical principles with their teachings in every subject and teaches students to spread the word of Christianity. The other, Bangor Christian Schools, says it seeks to develop within each student a Christian worldview and Christian philosophy of life. In his dissent, Justice Breyer wrote that both schools have admissions policies that allow them to deny enrollment based on gender identity, sexual orientation, and religion. And both schools require their teachers to be born-again Christians. Pretty fundamentalist shit going on here. So they're forcing the state to fund tuition for students who opt to go to these religious schools over the other available private school options.
Yeah,
does not set a good precedent.
No, this is a lot more scary to me than the other one. I agree.
Religious schools are the scariest fucking thing about all of this, dude.
Yeah, because it's the problem. It first off, it exacerbates the problem that I've brought up several times. I'm sure you feel the same way, but the lack of scientific literacy in the U.S. and the lack of critical thinking, reasoning capabilities. I mean, this is taking that existing problem and just pushing it to the nth degree. Like, let's see how bad. It's almost an experiment. Like, how can we teach somebody to never critically think? Like, let's send them to a religious school. Let's teach them that evolution by natural selection is just something made up. That's just the opinion of the scientist, and we have our other opinion, our opinion, which is based on faith. When faith faith is just as valid as the body of scientific knowledge.
Agree to disagree. You believe in evolution. I believe in creation. Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with my aunt before, and it is infuriating trying to talk to somebody like that, because you can't break through to them. It's like a celebration. Christian fundamentalists, it is a celebration of ignorance. They're just completely ignorant of everything that they're talking about, and they think that there's validity to that ignorance. They think that, well, that's just what they believe, and them just believing that is just as good as you.
I didn't realize this was a Kalinsky clip. He's so young in this clip.
Oh, come on, praise him!
Yeah. Humbalabidabidabim. The Lord has taken me. It was God speaking through me.
Maybe. Or you just high.
How can it be? Why does it sound so much like Satan speaking? If it's Jesus speaking through you, it sounds like fucking Satan.
Yeah, I went to one of those churches before, or the Pentecostal church.
Pentecostal, that's what it is. Man.
Yeah, I went to Scott's mom used to go to one, and she would make him go because he was a heathen, and I would go along just to hang out. And yeah, they did the whole speaking in tongues thing. It was pretty wild. I've never been to anything like that. Oh yeah, he would get out and pastor would lay hands on people, and they'd and there'd be a bunch of old women going up there in their 70s, and they'd be like dancing around and jibber jabbering.
Jesus Christ! No wonder they used to burn women as witches back then. Fuck.
Yeah.
All nuts, dude. You go crazy without TV, don't you? Just in natural human environment state, you just go nuts.
I think that's what it is. Lack of TV.
Yeah, this is essentially what they want to do is turn back the clock. They want madrasas. They want Christian madrasas in the country. They don't want real schools. They don't want to teach science. They want to teach like this school's teaching Bible in every subject.
Okay, yeah. So you were saying earlier, you don't believe that educated people believe this stuff.
No, I think it's a tool to control women primarily in society at large and maintain the social hierarchy.
So that's what I was going to ask is, I guess like with the Crayson versus Macon, there's a little bit like there's money involved. There are big conglomerate religious studies corporations, but not really. Like you're not talking the type of money that coal companies, for example, with the previous rulings. But like, okay, so what's the point of this? Why would you do this if there's not really any money involved in it? Why is the Supreme Court making these sorts of rulings?
Well, to keep
unless they actually are the fundamentalists, so they buy into this shit.
Point of controlling women this way is to keep them at home, raising the kids, taking care of the elderly. The whole point is to keep women doing unpaid work for society, so we don't have to fund this work with taxes and put them in the workforce to help productive capacity. We want to keep them doing unpaid labor, and we want it to be for religious reasons, not because we're fucking evil assholes. Raising kids is work, dude. It's just unpaid work in a fundamentalist society. This is why the Soviet Union had so many women in the workforce. I get so pissed off about this shit, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just watched the FLDS documentary, dude. The fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, they set up in tech. Did you see what they were doing to these fucking women, dude? They were breeding women like cattle. They forced marriages at like 12, 13 years old, dude.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. I mean, I've followed stuff about those people, but
they don't know any better because that's all they were ever taught growing up. They don't fucking know. They didn't go to school. Went to this religious bullshit.
But I don't know. I get what you're saying, but I'm not buying that that's what's going on in Samuel Alito's head or any of these other conservative justices. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, unless they really do, they buy into it. And, of all the things that they could be making decisions on, this is one of the things. They have some long-term goal about the division of labor in society between the sexes, and they want to be able to enforce it a certain way. I don't know. Yeah.
It's not that it's not a specific sort of thought in their head, but it's the culture and the general trend of, these guys are all Federalist Society. They're all raised and bred to be this. They're created in a fucking lab by the corporate boards of these organizations. These guys are. This is Amy Coney Barrett. She is the crystallized fucking form of pure capitalist dogma, dude. She is the baby of the capitalist neoliberal project. She was created in a lab to have these fucking retarded beliefs to justify this crazy system of oppression. You let women into the workforce, they're going to start getting crazy ideas in their head. Like maybe the state has a role in raising children and caring for the elderly, and maybe we should get paid maternity leave and shit like that.
Well, there's certainly a pretty strong link between the level of fundamentalism and conservatism. So I don't know. I could see an argument that maybe long term they're thinking, the more religious people are, the more likely they are to be conservative. The more people think that Jesus is going to come down and save them, or that they're going to have an afterlife and it's going to kind of negate any suffering that happens in the world, the more accepting they're going to be of us cutting the EPA to where we make this a fiery hellscape of noxious fumes and dead trees, and nobody's going to care because they're all just hyped up on Jesus waiting for the second coming.
What do you think the percentage of the Brahmin, what percentage do you think are true believers of these people? Do you think they're true believers? Is that your argument?
Yeah, I think so.
You think Mike Pence thinks that he's going to heaven?
I think Mike Pence thinks he's going to heaven. I think Alito, definitely. He's a pretty strong Catholic. I believe so. Hang on, let me look these guys up.
So this seems really dystopian.
Not Samuel Jackson.
Clarence Thomas is the black
Clarence
guy.
Thomas, that's the one. He's the
one whose wife is implicated in Jan 6th.
Yeah, he's the old pube on the Coke can guy. He you don't remember that? Well, that was, I think, like in the 90s it happened when he first got, what do you call it? Confirmed? Yeah, I guess confirmed. There was a woman that come forward that said that he had sexually assaulted her, and I don't know, I guess he used to go in her office and jerk off or something in front of her, and she presented as evidence a Coke can that had some of his pubic hair on it, and it just completely went away and nothing ever really come of it.
Well, fuck, Brett Kavanaugh was like, yeah, these guys are all sick as
They're all fucking sexual predators, man.
They all, that's what they teach you at Yale. That's the first thing they teach you is how to assault women. That's the initiation.
Yeah, Anita Hill. Anita Hill was, you never heard that name? That was the
Sounds
woman,
familiar,
she was I don't know, like a paralegal or somebody working under Clarence Thomas.
It's almost like conservatives are fucking womanizers.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's something is about that Brahmin class and their just the level of entitlement that they have towards everything. Like they can do whatever they want. They can rape people. They can jerk off in front of people. They can.
Well, they're just women, dude.
Just women. Gut legislation that is incredibly important health wise and family planning wise for millions of people. They just do whatever they want, and I guess they can.
They have daughters, though, don't they? Do they not give a fuck?
Yeah, but their daughters aren't. That's the thing. Their daughters don't have to deal with this shit.
I know that, but just on principle, though.
Their principles don't align with our principles. That's what I was thinking. So I was listening to Kamala Harris, and somebody was interviewing her, asking her about the Roe decision, and they showed this photo of her when she heard the news on Air Force Two, and she's sitting very properly and looking at this flat screen TV, and she has this very concerned look on her face. She's very upset about it. It made me sick. It was obviously like all those things are staged, but this one was it was particularly bad. And she's kind of like she's laughing about it. There was no connection. Obviously she's taking the side that Roe v. Wade should have held and that there should be abortion rights. But she was laughing the whole time she was talking about it. And the commentator that I was listening to, he was saying like, yeah, because she has no personal connection to this. It doesn't matter to her. And I heard her. She's apparently Kamala Harris has 2 daughters, and I was kind of wondering, like, well, why doesn't it have a personal connection to you? You're a female. You have 2 daughters. I was like, oh, but you're millionaires. Your daughters are gonna go to whatever doctor they want. It's not going to be an issue for them to fly to a different state where abortion's legal to have any procedure done. They don't care. You're above scrutiny. You're above the issues that us normal folk have to deal with. I guess it's just not that big a deal to fly to a different state or a different country to get your health care
Right,
for
but most
a
of them
multimillionaire.
Most of these guys and gals pretend like they have principles, at least. Kamala Harris doesn't even pretend like she has principles. She doesn't give a fuck.
No, she doesn't.
What was Biden think? What is with her, dude? Is she a robot, or like what is the deal with?
She's
the worst. She is the worst.
It was Vosh I was listening to. I was driving around, and it's like she was just saying, like, she is a vacuum of charisma. She's just so bad. She's so uninteresting. Every time she opens her mouth
before she speaks, before she even says anything, I just start cringing.
You just start getting angry, and like there's not a genuine, like, she never says anything where you're like, oh, that was, I could tell that was heartfelt, that was genuine, she really meant that. Like everything, you're just cringing, just wondering where she come from.
The strategists, the Democratic strategists, must have been like, we need somebody that makes Biden seem lively, interesting next to,
and it's true. I mean? Yeah, people would much rather listen to Biden stumble through a speech than
that's
listen
entertaining
to her.
At least.
Yeah.
I would listen to anybody. I'd rather listen to Tim Pool over fucking Kamala Harris.
Oh my God, she really is the worst. She really is the worst.
She does not seem human, bro. Talk about lizard people.
Oh,
like her and Hillary Clinton.
So who do you think? Who would you rather listen to speak? Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris? Because I mean, that's really like that's the World Series of screeching. I think misogyny is justified against both of them. So, well, when you come to screeching women, who is the worst, Kamala or Clinton?
If you Clockwork Oranged me, you pried my eyes open, and I had to watch both of them for an extended period of time speak, I think Kamala Harris would make me like throw up after like 20 minutes. Probably I would start vomiting. But I think after like 20 minutes of Hillary, I would blow my fucking brains out, dude. I just couldn't take it. I think Hillary's so despicable, and just listening to her, just my blood pressure would be so through the roof, dude.
I don't know. I think I would go the opposite way. I think Hillary, with Hillary, at least like there's a potential there for something interesting. Like, she was a Rhodes Scholar in the 60s or 70s. She looked like a groovy chick. She probably did fucking acid. I'm sure she got gangbanged many times. There's something interesting there that
I guess
might be worth listening to. There's some life experience other than some fucking Ivy League pig that becomes a prosecutor and laughs about how she has single mothers arrested because their kids were truant and laughs about it.
Kamala Harris is the sensory deprivation tank of politicians. Like, I'd rather be in a sensory deprivation tank than listen to Hillary Clinton, I think. But isn't it kind of dystopian to like these guys, this worldview of like, well, it doesn't matter if we completely destroy the fucking planet, the entire Earth and every living thing on it, just cook it all 200 degrees Fahrenheit across the board, fuck it, let everything die, polar ice caps melt, no ozone, who cares? None of it matters because there's an afterlife, and we're all of us true believers are going to this afterlife. So fuck the planet Earth that God created. None of that matters. Isn't that kind of like dystopian?
It's horrifying. It is like a horror film. They either think it doesn't matter or it's not going to happen. So I had a conversation with a fundamentalist family member, and the subject of climate change got brought up, and this person simply said, God said he wasn't going to flood the earth again, so I'm not worried about it. That's why I was like, worried about sea level rise. And, after
tell you this personally, because hearsay is not very, it's in
the Bible, James. It's in the Bible. After God flooded the world and Noah survived, he promised that he sent a rainbow as his promise that he would never flood the earth again. And this person believes that and is not worried about climate change because I don't have to, God's going to fix it or something. He's not going to let it happen again.
That can't be right. They can't really believe that, dude. They've believed this their whole life and they don't want to change their opinion. Because they would have to admit they're wrong.
This is a college educated person. Somebody that has their master's.
They just don't want to admit they're wrong. That has to be it. They have a friend group. They have a social life. All this, their whole life is built around this belief. They can't just change their belief. There's so much pressure on them to maintain that stupid fucking belief. That has to be what it is. I can't fathom this. People actually believe this.
Yeah, it really is difficult. And that's what I'm thinking, like, but she's talking to me. She knows that I'm an atheist. I wouldn't put any social pressure on her. I'm not putting any pressure on her to say anything. But like, why not give a real answer at least? You know, nobody else is hearing. But that's what she comes up with. You know,
are they just that scared of death? Is that what it is?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's fascinating.
So they just picked up a case on voting rights. So this case, the Supreme Court is set to vote on when they get back, would block state judges from overturning election laws passed by state legislators. So currently, like in Arizona and Georgia, places where the legislature is replacing election workers with like pro-MAGA people, because that's a good idea. Judges are trying to block some of these actions that legislators are taking, and the Supreme Court is hearing a case where they can stop that. They can put a stop to that. So there will be nothing to prevent state legislatures from doing whatever the fuck they want to election laws in all these states, like Kentucky, with supermajorities of the Republican Party basically control the state at that point. It'll be a runaway effect if they start tinkering even worse than gerrymandering with the voting system. Pretty fucked up. So, yeah, the Republican Party has complete control over 30 state legislatures, according to the Times article on this. And there will be nothing to stop them.
Yeah, so we just need those show trials. Get your fatigues. Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi.
Are you turning into an accelerationist, Tony?
Oh, I've always been an accelerationist. I think it's the only way to go. I've wanted to talk about this before. I feel I'm a dyed-in-the-wool accelerationist.
I didn't
used to,
just
but bring it on.
Getting there, yeah.
Bring it on. Let it all. We get the government we deserve, and this is
Pull
what
off
we
the
deserve.
Band-Aid. Rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, exactly. Rip it off. Let the chips fall where they may.
Glory to God. Of course, all of our offerings will go toward the outreaches of Kenneth Copeland Ministries, and
doesn't he just look evil?
He does.
What is wrong with people? They send him money.
A lot of money. A lot of money.
I guess my question is, when I look at him, he just looks evil. Am I missing something?
No, he does in particular. Did you ever see those?
He sounds like Satan, and he looks evil.
I showed you those Andrea Antunes videos, right?
Yeah,
of the guy that like plays the heavy metal to the. Okay, yeah. He's got a couple good ones for Kenneth Copeland.
Imagine so. Anywho, in light of the Jan 6 hearings, I stumbled across a few factoids about the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. I thought we would talk a little bit about these guys because they will be the new SA and the SS after the next coup, the successful one. They'll be looking for people like me, beating the doors, looking for commies and socialists, Slavs. Probably they'll go after Slavs. If you have any Russian friends or Polish friends, they'll probably be going after Jews and journalists. So be weary, guys. They'll be going after you if you're a journalist.
Intelligentsia in general, you know, you always have to go after the professors, the schools,
right.
Knowledge, and intelligent people, scientists that don't go along with whatever bullshit pseudoscience that they're in favor of. I just watched a little, I think it was like a TED Talk where this guy speaks about fascism and how fascist coups take place, and this is all right down the line of how they go about it. You know, it was exactly Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. These are the type of groups.
The brown shirts.
These are the people that will start. I mean, this is exactly how they're like, and this is where these things come from.
Yep. First up is the Proud Boys, and I have an opening clip to get you in the mood.
When you just kick someone's ass, they don't just take it. Like, they come back with a bat or a gun or their brother, or you start a fight, and they want to get it back, and it goes back and forth, and all conflict pretty much goes that way. You have conflict, and then someone responds to that conflict, and it escalates. So you create this horrific environment where it's almost impossible to avoid violence.
Well, so I'm done avoiding it. I'm taking the low road. I'm punching them in the face.
So that's what you're doing with this outfit?
Yes.
The end of the deplorable here. You can see people coming out here with Gavin McInnes, and I heard you had a scuffle earlier tonight. You want to tell me about it?
Yes. I attacked a couple guys. They were there to antagonize us, and there's this assumption that if you antagonize people, they're just going to take.
So this is Gavin McInnes, the founder of the Proud Boys. According to his interview on Rogan here from 2018, it was a joke supposedly, but he advocates for violence openly and constantly on his show. Behind him here, after
I was getting ready to say, yeah, the guy behind him's that like white nationalist guy, isn't it?
Richard Spencer here behind him, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was where I first saw Gavin McInnes on Rogan's show, and he didn't seem that bad, but yeah, he's a Nazi. And his violence is his big thing, and the Proud Boys are built around a culture of violence. They're like a white nationalist fight club, basically.
Have you ever seen the movie Falling Down?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah. I did. I mean, that's his shtick, right? Like he certainly dresses as that guy. What was this? Is it Michael Douglas?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, Michael Douglas. And I guess that's the thing. It's all the grievances that the Michael Douglas character has that the traditional middle-class white male of the 50s and the promise, and they're upset about that the promise wasn't fulfilled for them, for how society would work, and that they would get a good spot in it, and now they're upset, and they're going to fight back at whoever they think is responsible for them not fulfilling the role in society that they thought that they would.
Well, that's also what the Nazi Party was promising the workers of Weimar Germany.
Yeah, something like that.
Capitalism's not working. We need to try something else. This old fascism's pretty good.
You've had something taken from you, and these are the people that took it. And so now we need to get it back. We're not doing this. We're not attacking. This is self-defense. We had our pride and our national culture and our history taken by these outsiders. And so in self-defense, we're going to crystal knock them.
Yeah. It's not capitalism. It's the Jewish capitalists that are the problem. So after Gavin McInnes stepped down, after he was getting too much heat, Enrico Tarrio, who was always sort of a higher up in the Proud Boys, became the official leader. Although he did kind of run shit behind the scenes previously to that. But so he was, last month, Enrico Tarrio was indicted along with 4 other members of the group of the Proud Boys for seditious conspiracy. According to the indictment, on January 5th, Enrico Tarrio met with Stuart Rhodes, a former leader of the Oath Keepers, in a parking garage, and was in communications with Proud Boys leadership on the ground at the Capitol on Jan 6th. Now, the reason Tarrio wasn't actually there was because he was arrested and there was a restraining order against him. He had stolen a Black Lives Matter sign from a black church and burned it in the middle of the street. So therefore, he was not allowed to participate physically, but he was in conversations with the leaders of the Proud Boys during Jan 6th. Tarrio runs an online merch store and has previously started other businesses. He's a wealthy middle-class guy, Cuban American. There's not a lot of background information you can really get a hold of on this guy, but I'm assuming his dad was probably some fucking plantation owner in Cuba before the revolution. I'm assuming he's buddies with Marco Rubio. So yeah, that sort of crew.
Oh yeah.
Here's a shirt from his merch store. It's down right now, I think, because he's in jail. But so this is a T-shirt on his merch store. Enrico Tarrio. Pinochet did nothing wrong on the front, and on the back it says "Make communists afraid of rotary aircraft again." And it has a nice photo of Pinochet dropping communists out of the helicopter, as he famously used to do. He would take political dissidents and commies and union organizers, fly them up in helicopters and drop them out of the helicopter.
And of course, that's a U.S. helicopter, so I'm assuming he's advocating that we start doing that here with our modern military equipment.
I think Pinochet had U.S. helicopters.
No, that's an Apache. That's like a modern attack helicopter.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
No, that's not. They would have had Hueys. If it were U.S., they'd probably have Hueys, or they wouldn't have had a modern Apache.
This is very common right-wing sort of Nazi shit in Latin America. 2020, Tarrio ran a short campaign for a Florida congressional seat. and was endorsed by Roger Stone, who recorded a voicemail message for his campaign. According to Vox, Stone was rumored to have joined the Proud Boys at some point. And Stone and Tarrio appeared in a video together the day before a Trump rally. And Tarrio was at Stone's trial to support him. Stone was eventually pardoned by Trump. Roger Stone, as you'll recall, is a longtime Republican strategist, Washington insider, very integral to running presidential campaigns for Republicans for decades and decades.
And a very dapper dresser, too.
He goes back to the Nixon administration, so probably involved in some scandalous shit all through history.
Yeah, this is how you drain the swamp. You get people from the swampiest previous presidential administrations in recent history. And Roger Stone he's a swamp monster if anybody is.
He is the swampiest of all swamp man.
A swamp lord, one might say.
Whitewater shit, dude. Like Castro assassination shit, JFK stuff. I didn't know he joined the Proud Boys. Doesn't that seem a little odd? I guess not really. Of course, these white nationalist militia groups are going to be full of like top Republican.
I don't know. That seems like it seems just like a troll move. I'm just trying to be provocative for him to do something like that. I don't think Roger Stone cares. He cares about power.
Yeah, but normally he would be behind the scenes. He wouldn't be like doing public shit. I guess after the pardon, he said, "Fuck it." Well, this was before all that, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I bet he did that just to be provocative, just to get people riled up.
Here's another clip of Gavin McInnes talking about the Proud Boys.
You came a long way. You're wearing a MAGA hat, and some guy with a slightly punk demeanor comes up to you and says, "Hey, are you Sal or are you pro-Trump?" Choke him. Trust your instincts. Don't listen to what he has to say. Choke him. If I do a video where I say, how about we start throwing bricks? Is that legal? You can't call for violence on a specific person, but can you say they're throwing bricks? We should throw bricks. Can you call for violence generally? Because I am. Fighting solves everything. We need more violence from the Trump people. Trump supporters. Choke a mother. Choke a bitch. Choke a
He's got a katana.
I want violence. I want punching in the face. I'm disappointed in Trump supporters for not punching enough.
So this is what Gavin McInnes does. Advocates for violence. And who is the violence directed towards, Tony?
Me? People that don't like Trump?
Right. Well, the Proud Boys came to national prominence after they traveled en masse to Portland to beat up leftist activists in the summer of 2020. This is where they were featured on Fox News and places like that, beating up Antifa. They traveled to Portland.
It's so messed up because those Antifa guys, it's like if I went over and started beating up my nephews. You know, it's just not even a fair fight. Those Antifa guys, they're all skinny, pale. They don't get enough sunlight. They don't eat any meat because they're all vegans. It's kind of messed up to beat up children like that. That's all I'm saying. It's not fair. They're picking on them. They're bigger than them.
I don't know if you remember what was going on in Portland at the time. They called it the Battle for Portland. The large number of anarchists and other leftists had organized a sort of commune in Portland.
The Chaz, right? The something autonomous zone.
Yeah, and they had elected a very leftist mayor, and Trump had sent in the feds, like National Guards, to beat the shit out of them. They were throwing him in unmarked vans, shooting him with rubber bullets. A couple people died. But the Proud Boys decided they would show up there and kick some ass, too, of these skinny leftists. Who are from, like, the leftists they were beating up were from Portland. These guys traveled from all across the country to go fuck with these guys. Anyhow, that's how they came to prominence. This organization is explicitly built upon violence and around violence, as I mentioned earlier. After Trump's infamous quote, after a presidential debate with Biden, Tarrio began to manufacture new T-shirts. He's in a debate with Biden, and the moderator it's Chris Hayes, I think, the Fox News guy moderating, and he's like, "Will you today come out and condemn these white nationalists?" And Trump says, "Well, you know, blah blah blah," and then he says, and he's like, "Name somebody specifically, and I'll condemn them." And he says, "How about the Proud Boys? Will you condemn the Proud Boys?" And Trump says, "Well, the Proud Boys, I would tell them to stand back and stand by. Does not condemn them whatsoever." Probably because his buddy Roger Stone is a member. Could be, have something to do with it. There we go. Proud Boy standing by is the t-shirt.
$40? Jesus.
This is a male-only organization, by the way, which is why they don't have female shirts. See, they're missing out on market share.
Yeah, you think they could make like a female version of it, you know, standing by my proud boy, something like that?
Well, they don't tell you, but they have all the women in the back, like, slave laboring away to make all these shirts, I imagine.
But all the shirts are made for women with extra large tits. So that's how they justify it. Like, you can only get the shirt if you're a chick, but you got to have really big tits.
Right.
Which I support that.
Back to Enrico Tarrio, the Cuban leader of the Proud Boys, or ex-leader. Now he's resigned since he was arrested. Enrico Tarrio was a fourth-degree member of the Proud Boys before ascending to the throne upon the resignation of Gavin McInnes. In order to achieve the lofty fourth degree, a Proud Boy must engage in a violent assault on a leftist. Seditious conspiracy, the charge that he received, carries a maximum of 20 years in federal prison. Eugene Debs was famously convicted of a similar crime, not seditious conspiracy, just sedition. He was given 10 years for advocating for Americans to resist the draft. This was the socialist candidate for president and founder of the IWW, Eugene V. Debs.
Grand old man of American socialism.
Founded the IWW. He was involved in the Pullman strike. Very important figure in history of the labor movement. Historically, however, seditious conspiracy, which is what Tarrio received, have only been applied to Puerto Rican independence leaders typically. Periodically, some Puerto Rican independence leaders will arise trying to gain independence from the United States, or at least to be accepted as a state and not a fucking colony. They always throw them in prison for seditious conspiracy charges.
Well, you got to do something with them.
Yeah. Got to keep the boot on the neck. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of background on Tarrio, as I said, but he has, according to Reuters, worked extensively with both federal and local law enforcement as a confidential informant. This is one reason why member groups split with Tarrio, supposedly, which is bullshit. They didn't do it till after he was arrested. He's a snitch. He's an informant. He worked for the feds and the local boys for a long-ass time and was head of the Proud Boys. So that's the Proud Boys. Not surprising that a bootlicker would be working for the feds.
Oh, my God.
These guys are the fucking worst.
Yeah, no shit. Jesus Christ. They probably, I don't know, he probably justifies that. You know, he's a rebel that's helping the, I don't know. I'm trying to make some connection in my head between...
They openly work for the police anyway. That's what they fucking do.
Snitching being a virtuous act because black people hate cops, and so us supporting, you know, cops are conservative, I think, by and large. I don't think it's crazy to say something like that, but yeah, I guess they would look at being a snitch as like a patriotic duty. Puts them on the side of the guys out there risking their lives for everybody's freedom.
Well, that's what they did. They went to Portland to help the cops beat up the leftists in Portland. It was during the George Floyd protests is when all this happened. So
yeah, this is
BLM protesters too.
I'm reminded about what I said about the Tim Pool podcast, you know, or the Tim Pool fans, that they're bootlickers pretending to be anti-authoritarians.
Yeah, they're anti-authoritarians, except they're fucking pro-cop and pro-military.
Yeah, and they believe that they should have an unaccountable president that has supreme power over the Congress and becomes president for life.
And who are they rebelling against? Like scientists and shit, like doctors and
the tyranny of all those professors that Jordan Peterson's been crying about.
When you say it like that, Tony, it just sounds like they're fascists. I guess they don't put two and two together, though.
I don't think they do.
Okay, so here's
putting two and two together to equal four is something that they teach you in college. I don't deal with any crap that I hear from a professor.
Yeah, you're not a fucking libtard.
Start using math, and the next thing you call somebody by the preferred pronoun. It's a slippery slope, James.
Both of these organizations make it very clear that they're not white supremacists. Like Tarrio's a Cuban American, he's brown, so therefore he can't be a white supremacist, which is bullshit, obviously. Here's a clip of Gavin McInnes. This is just all his shows, but this is just the first clip I came across.
But the assholes that are going, it was a threat to our democracy. I'm like, what was 2 years of the country burning down? Yeah. Wasn't that a threat to your democracy?
That was protest.
That was democracy.
Right.
There's nothing more American than criticizing America.
First,
Okay, so first of all, I want to just make this point. I don't know if I've made this on the show before, but what the BLM protesters were doing was not violence. I would not consider that violence. That's property destruction. There's a difference there. What the Proud Boys do is physical violence against other human beings. In particular, people protesting fucking police brutality. Anyway.
Yeah, and I also love that they're not coming up with any justification.
There's no like moral principle. There's
no moral principle. They're just saying, oh, the other guys do fucked up shit too, so we should be allowed to do messed up shit. We should be allowed to try to overthrow the government because some people threw some bricks through some windows in response to, a completely out of control criminal gang called the local police department that exists everywhere and runs off of taxpayer dollars. So people get upset about that and throw some bricks or smash some windows. And so don't complain when we try to attempt a fascist coup. I don't know. I mean, I was going to say I don't get the logic, but there's just no logic there. There's not even an attempt at logic. It's not even an attempt at argument. It's just
finding an excuse to beat the shit out of. They just want to beat the shit out of leftists because they're fucking fascists.
Right. There's nothing more American than criticizing America.
First Amendment.
They weren't criticizing America.
Burning it down.
They were burning it down and ripping down statues. Did you see the fucking Robert E. Lee replacement?
Yeah.
It's an afro comb with a black power hand.
An afro comb.
Questlove's fucking afro comb.
Couldn't be more parody than ripping down a Confederate statue and replacing it with an afro comb. It's a joke that
is pretty silly.
Family Guy.
It is silly, but this is also like I feel like I'm watching like Nick Fuentes right now. Like this is so fat. This is so crazy, dude. Joe Rogan has had Gavin McInnes on many times on his show.
He's had Anthony Cumia on too. They're good friends. Really? Oh yeah.
It's not surprising to me. The more I learn about like the people that he's had on in the olden days.
Yeah.
A joke that the Babylon Bee,
Family Guy,
they turned it down. What statue's going to replace it? And then
imagine you're a black guy though. Like this isn't. I mean, this is kind of dumb, but it's not. I don't know. It's still like a symbol of your culture or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know about that. It seems like some white people that had never met black people that are like, we need to do something for the black people. What do black people like? They like fro pics. Let's put a fro pic with the fist on it.
I don't think a white person would do a fro pic because that seems really dumb and kind of racist. I don't think a white guy would come up with this.
I don't know.
I think it was. I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I don't want to laugh because this gets worse.
Turned it down. What statue's going to replace it? And then you'd see this and go, oh, God, that's so hilarious because it's so outlandish and could never happen. That's what's funny about it. And there the fuck
That's what
it is.
Mayor Lisa Simpson would do in a time travel episode of
You're
The
going to
Simpsons.
put an afro pic. You're so stupid. It's exactly what it is.
I think people can.
This is the kind of thing that conservatives typically lie about, though. This can't be true because this is the type of shit they make up or lie about or misrepresent.
Yeah, so apparently I was looking it up. The statue is part of a traveling exhibit.
Okay, so that's not like a permanent
it's not a
installation.
Permanent thing. No.
It's just something they threw up there.
It's an art.
It's a fuck you to the white nationalists.
Yeah, it's a fuck you to the white nationalists. I guess they would classify it as an art exhibit, and it's going to travel around from city to city. I was trying to look up the race. Hank Willis Thomas is the
sounds pretty black,
artist. Dude. Yeah, it does. The Willis part. The Hank Thomas, it sounds like a country music singer. Hank
Thomas
Williams
could be go either way, yeah.
Ah, he's a jazz musician. Okay.
So he's either a liberal or a black guy, yeah.
He's a black guy.
Okay.
Walk in it, right?
Can they?
I thought I saw a guy in the body of it somehow. I don't know how he got up
I
there.
know black people could grab the bars and shake it asking for fucking their lawyer, which is kind of... You can take a tin cup and rattle it for some drink.
Oops. Yeah, that's... oh my God, is it wearing a dashiki there?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't African enough. It's
got a shirt
on top, on the fist.
Oh, my God. From now on, every time people are photographed there, you have to do it on the other side of the bars.
And that would be hilarious. And just show black people go, look, the
I just can't. Yuck. God. How do you joke about fucking prison, dude? I guess if you've never been.
Yeah, if you've never been. Yeah, well, Anthony Cumia, he's Opie and Anthony. I don't know if you ever. I hated those morning radio shock jock shows.
I didn't watch Opie and Anthony. I watched a little bit of Stern back in the day, but
yeah. So that's me. I don't know. So he's a shock jock. I guess that's his thing, is just saying outrageous shit to shock people.
Is that racist? That's gotta be right. It just seems really
the prison thing. That really, I don't know. That's an intent thing, I think.
Every racist laughed at that, though. I know non-racists like us would laugh at it too, but that appeals to racists. Like, God, I don't know, man. I don't dig it. It's like the same shit I see on Fuentes' show. Maybe I'm just
Anthony Cumia.
I'm getting too woke, maybe.
Maybe. No, Anthony Cumia. He's I don't think he's made it any secret that he's pretty openly racist. He was fired by Sirius XM Radio after posting a series of racially charged and hate-filled tweets. Then he went on to start his own video podcast after that, and he really took off because he was good friends with Rogan and went on Rogan several times.
The Rogan bump.
The old Rogan bump.
The Rogan fucking jet to stratosphere that Peterson got.
I remember hearing about it because this is back when I listened to Rogan religiously, and I remember him coming on. I don't know. I always hated these radio shock jock guys. I don't think it's interesting. I don't think it's funny.
I think the Stern shit with the women was really fucked up. Is it seen as fucked up now? Because it was. I felt like it was fucked up then. Dragging these women on and like rating their tits and shit. Do you remember that?
I never listened to it. I didn't care. Really? I had zero interest in any radio morning show shit. None whatsoever.
Stern would have these women come in to like judge their bodies, and they were like trying to get into Playboy supposedly, and they would come in, get naked, and he would like judge them on air. It was, I don't know, it was really fucked up, I think.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Apparently he's going to be running for president.
Stern?
Yeah.
He'll do pretty well, I think. Is he going to run as a Republican, I don't know, man. He's pretty liberal.
I think he previously run as a libertarian. I don't know. I just heard something about it like a few days ago that he's considering a run.
Oh, great. More fucking rich celebrities running for office. Great.
Yeah.
Let's not get anybody that knows about like the law or politics or anything. Let's get people who bullshit for a living.
Yeah. I've been kind of concocting my unified field theory of everything that's wrong in America in my head. And I think a big part of it is that people in media are almost exclusively, like they're all wealthy, and they seem to have all come from wealth. Like, you're not going to get to be an Anderson Cooper starting out from the bottom, or a Don Lemon, or a
not that often.
I don't think it happens, man.
It does happen. I've looked into it. It's usually a lucky break, though. Like they'll,
or if it does, like once they get to that point, like they've been wealthy and they've been exclusively around wealthy, influential people for so long. Like Rogan, I would put him in that place. Like
it's always people from New York or California. Always,
yeah. But
or people
like
who travel there.
Rogan didn't come from poverty, but he wasn't poor. You know, they were like pretty solidly middle class. But it's like once he got to a certain level of wealth, and I mean, this is old news. Everybody's aware of this, but like, you know, he made that really hard shift right. And as he spent more time around really wealthy people, he's just become more and more out of touch, and it's just really obvious. And the things that he thinks of as freedom and as important issues are just not the things that normal people would think of as important issues. Well, you know, he's been recently talking up Ron DeSantis and saying like, well, Ron DeSantis, you know, he's all about freedom, and Ron DeSantis likes freedom. It's like, well, yeah, if what you think of as freedom is
not paying taxes,
is not paying taxes and being able to go to the comedy club without having a mask and not having restrictions on how many people can show up to the comedy club, but
after COVID, it was mask off for Rogan. He was so pissed that he couldn't get all the fucking accolades at his comedy club.
Crystal Ball, for example. When I listen to her, I listen to somebody like Kalinsky talk about issues that concern like people that are in poverty. It's like I can hear it when they're speaking. Like, you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just repeating words that you've heard said. And so you don't have that personal connection to the plight of the working poor that I think is really necessary for you to really be an advocate on their behalf. You know, it would be like if I started talking about chess to you. You know, you would pick up, I could say the words correctly and in the right order, but you would pick up very quickly that I don't have a damn clue what I'm talking about. And as a result of that, the emphasis that I place on certain things would be, on certain aspects of somebody's chess game that if I'm trying to analyze it, would be just
I think you could
completely whack.
You could still have that sense, but you just have to spend time around chess players. Like, I think Bernie Sanders isn't from a poor family, but he spends time around working people. That's the difference. I don't think Kamala Harris is chilling with fucking factory workers.
Well, no, in this, I'm specifically talking about people in media. So not necessarily politicians.
Oprah was from a poor-ass family. She came from fucking nothing, dude.
And she spent so much time around wealthy people that I don't know what Oprah's politics are now, but I'm sure you've got to have, like, there's a certain degree of separation that you can't leave from poverty. Or at the very least, like, if you get wealthy, you need to live or go to a place where there are poor people. Like, you need to, even if you get your Joe Rogan $100 million contract, like, every once in a while, when you go on, after you do your week-long elk hunting trips in Maui, then you got to do a week-long ramen noodle trip in, like, Kentucky, where you...
Zach De La Rocha lives in the hood still.
You smoke meth in a trailer for 3 days and freak out and just do poor people shit.
There you go. Oprah needs to come down here and drink some Robitussin with me.
Yeah, drink some Robitussin with James.
I was just going to say about Rogan, he has got to be the biggest hypocrite. And what drives me crazy about Rogan, man, like, Carlos Mencia is way funnier than fucking Rogan ever thought about being. Have you watched any of Rogan's, like, comedy? He's horrible. He's not funny at all. But Rogan has got to be the unfunniest funny comedian guy I've ever seen in my life. I can't think of anybody less funny than Rogan. Like, their stand-up specials and shit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's something about, like, his delivery. Like, a lot of the... I don't know. It's not good. It's really not good.
He's funny on the show sometimes, on the JRE, but, like, his stand-up...
Yeah, conversationally, he's got some really great moments on the podcast. Actually, so my ex-wife had bought me a ticket. I guess this had been 2020. She bought me a ticket for us to go see Rogan when he was coming to Louisville. And then the pandemic hit and tickets got canceled, obviously. So I never did get to see him, but I was going to.
Goddamn fucking Democrats.
Goddamn Democrats. Taking away our freedom.
Freedom is more important than grandma.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter whether or not we have the freedom to organize or the freedom to be able to take off work because we're pregnant or anything like that. But I need the freedom to go to a comedy club.
The freedom to not have to go to work and serve fucking rich people like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And their shitty fans. That's the thing that Rogan, he will never understand, is the service workers who have to wait on his fucking ass, hand, and foot. What about their freedom?
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
So the Oath Keepers were founded after the presidential election of Barack Obama in 2009 by Yale Law School graduate Stuart Rhodes. The Oath Keepers refused to acknowledge the authority of the federal government. Members issue a conspiracy-laden declaration of orders they will refuse to enforce, including disarming the American people. This is from USA Today. Rhodes has long claimed that the group, which experts said is the largest unauthorized militia in the country, is made up primarily of active and retired law enforcement officers and military personnel. Stuart Rhodes is a former paratrooper, as well as the former staffer to Ron Paul. He's the eye patch guy, if you've ever seen him on TV. Stuart Rhodes.
Yeah, I think so.
They subscribe to many of the theories of the sovereign citizen movement. They have been involved in multiple standoffs with the Bureau of Land Management, including the Bundy Ranch in 2014 standoff. That I know you've mentioned this on the show before, the Clive and Bundy thing.
It's my spirit animal.
Yeah, he was grazing his cattle on federal lands, and he wouldn't stop.
Wouldn't pay.
And he's still doing it.
Yeah.
They let him keep doing it on federally protected
lands. All he had
lands.
to do is he just like pay a little bit of money. It's like a rental fee. I forget what it was, but it was compared to like private people that would rent out their land. It was insanely cheap.
You should read the comments on some of those Clive and Bundy videos. They also made Kentucky news when they offered to travel to Kentucky to serve as a militia that was aiming to prevent Kim Rhodes from being arrested for contempt of court for refusing to issue gay marriage licenses in Rowan County, Kentucky, if you remember this case.
I do. Yeah, that crazy lady.
Yeah, she was a court clerk refusing to marry gay people. And the judge was going to throw her in jail for contempt of court. And the Oath Keepers were offering to come and stop the police from arresting her. She declined their services. Luckily, there was no standoff. Stewart, his ex-wife, testified at his bond hearing because he as well has been arrested in connection to Jan 6th organizing. Miss Adams testified that she fears for her safety and the safety of her 6 children should the defendant be released, the judge wrote in a January 26 ruling. Miss Adams testified that throughout their marriage, the defendant would often brandish firearms in the family home to control her behavior, and that the defendant would physically abuse his children under the guise of participating in, quote, martial arts practice. Adams testified that he would create elaborate escape tunnels. She elaborated on this during the interview with Law and Crimes podcast, claiming that Rhodes worried about being arrested in connection with a standoff at the Bundy Ranch years before.
To be fair, we all worry about being arrested for something.
True.
And that's why we dig our escape tunnels. Make the kids practice martial arts so they can armbar the feds when they
He's like fucking
come in.
Putting his kids in ankle locks and shit.
Why do these guys, they're like always, there's always something wrong with them. Like they're not just normal people that have a difference of opinion and they you know, like there's always some scummy shit going on. All of their ex-wives are afraid of them. Any of these like real hard right-wing leadership type guys, all of their ex-wives are scared to death of them.
Here's this is Stuart Rhodes, the head of the Oath Keepers at
Hey guys, we're here with Stuart Rhodes.
This is at the Jan 6 thing, I think.
From the Oath Keepers. Thank you so much for being here, brother. We're big fans of yours here at Just Another Channel. Cool. Where do you think the recent decision to basically kick Texas's lawsuit out, where does that leave us, and what do you think would be next?
Well, unfortunately, it's exactly what I knew was going to happen, because the judges are compromised along with the politicians. The communist Chinese have subverted and taken over this nation from top to bottom along with the globalists. So
along with the globalists.
Basically, we're at war with China right now. These are the Chinese proxies they have Hunter Biden's tip of the iceberg. You know, Swallow, what's his name? Swalwell. He's the tip of the iceberg also. That's what the Chinese do. They've been doing it for decades. So the only way out now is Trump has a narrow window. He needs to invoke the Insurrection Act. He needs to order SOCOM, who is still loyal to the Constitution, to go and seize all the computers, all the data in the FBI, CIA, NSA, etc. Right. And then he can declassify anything he wants as commander-in-chief and president. No one can stop him. So, but don't go to the CIA and ask them to declassify their own files. You go seize them.
All right, so the Chinese, it's the Chinese doing it. The Democrats are basically Chinese operatives, along with the globalists. The Jews, he means. When they say globalists, they mean Jews. Very well thought out. The head of the Oath Keepers, the largest militia group in the United States, formed up of ex-police and military, who coordinated with the Proud Boys to coup the government.
Yeah, whenever you hear these guys, there's a word for it, and it's escaping me. There was it was a philosopher, and he developed a metric that one would use to design a new society, and that when you're designing a society, you design it in such a way that you don't know what role you will fill in that new society. So you don't want to have, ideally, you would not want to have a society with slavery, even though, that could be beneficial to a society, because in the society you're developing, you might end up being a slave. You don't want, a big disparity. You don't want, old people to be chopped up for food for the young, because you might end up. Anyways, these guys, whenever they're designing a society, whenever they're talking about how they want a political system to run, they're always doing so assuming that they're going to be on the good end of it, that it's going to be beneficial to them. Like, I don't think he can say that it's a good thing for a president to have the kind of power that he would want him to have, to just go around invoking insurrection acts, seizing computers, taking power away from different other competing organizations that could hold a check on him. Like, he doesn't think that's a better society. He just thinks that might turn out to be a better society for him.
Yeah, of course. At the head of the person who's responsible for helping to overthrow to put the new regime in power. Of course, he wants to be the fucking the Goring of the new regime.
My dad had a friend, this guy Dutch. Dutch was cool as shit, man. I love this guy. He was an old Vietnam vet. He was tattooed from head to toe, like had his eyeballs, not his eyeball, but the eyelids tattooed. Damn. And I was talking politics around him one time when I was like, I don't know, I was maybe like 19 or 20. And he said that he's a monarchist, that he wants a king because the king takes care of his men. And he was going to be one of the king's men. And the king was going to take care of him. The king he told me the king takes care of his men.
All right.
You know, so you serve the king, and but
as long as you're one of the king's men, you're good.
What if you're not one of the king's men? What if you're just some other fucking asshole like everybody else?
Wouldn't it be so much easier if there was like some vast conspiracy, like a Chinese conspiracy? Because then you could actually fix the problem. You could root out the conspiracy, kick out the conspirators, and fix the underlying issue. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It's not some sort of vast conspiracy where everybody has this one problem you could fix and solve the issues the working class faces in this country.
If only.
All right, man. That's got to do it.
All right, James.
Next week.
It was fun. Peace.
Been a pleasure. See you later, man.
Later.
What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
supremacists and
white like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn